Howdy and good evening, everybody. Welcome to another Monday Madness. We have completed the college basketball regular season and the conference tournaments. That leads you to the basketball lovers' idea of heaven on earth. Nothing like the NCAA tournament and men's college basketball March Madness. The mattier it gets, the better it is. The bigger the upsets, even better. Who else knows better than that than my great co-host here, the Woopah of all Woopahs, the Pokemon master of all Pokemon masters, but also the big sports guy on YouTube, like me. We're a rare breed. Woopah Troopah, how are you, Woopah?
Hello. Thank you for the kind words.
Absolutely. Always glad to have you here, Woopah. Awesome. So how's your day been?
It's been pretty good. I took off work today.
Yay.
Been a little sick, but everything is pretty good. It's nice to have an extra 3-day weekend, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had to take the day off because we came back from out of town. We had to deal with some things with the van. But, thank God for Amazon Prime. We could save some money on parts, but no big. Everybody's good. Things, wasn't, it just, you drive interstates in Florida, you have tire treads everywhere. So, and they can come out of nowhere. That's how those things go. So, hey, welcome. I'm glad you're here. So, I know it's trying to not spoil too much before we go down, but Whoopa, tell us again a little bit about basketball. What do you like with basketball overall?
What I like basketball, especially with college basketball, it's just how it's a lot. I don't want to say slower because it's still pretty fast paced, but it's not. There's a lot more focused on defense and not just
Mm-hmm.
you know. You don't get as many open shots usually. I feel like in college basketball than the NBA. You don't penalize a defenseman when a offensive guy puts his full body weight into you. They don't call that a shooting foul, which is always nice. It's a little bit more old school, I guess. You can see a lot of good defense. You can see a lot of good offense. See more players who can drive into the paint. So I just really like that feeling of a little bit old school basketball.
Yeah, old school basketball, kind of the way it's meant to play. I saw some of the scores of the NBA games recently. Look, I like offensive basketball, but what they do is just pound and it's just like the scores are a bit too high. There's like no defense, or
Yeah,
it's
I
a
saw
bullfighting
some score
defense.
recently where it's like each team had over 130, and there was that's regulation, no overtime. It's like what the heck?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a
It's
lot of times you can see, if someone gets, I think most every time in college basketball, someone gets an open 3-pointer, you have someone hustling to get him. Seems like a lot of time in the NBA, someone gets an open three, and you'll just see them stand around like, well, he's gonna make that. Oh, come on, guys. At least try to get him in his face.
yeah. I I tried watching the NBA at one point, but it just didn't seem like basketball. I mean, a lot of times, especially at one point with the games, it was like back your man down, dribble down slow, back your man down, and then put up a shot. That type of stuff.
I don't mind that as much. What seems sometimes what bothers me is just this happens more often lately. Everything's so small ball oriented. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have a lot of. There's no one like a Shaq nowadays, or even a
Right.
Yao Ming. There's very few like true centers, and you can see how important that is because I think the last four NBA MVPs have been won by two foreign players who they play a little bit more old school over in Europe. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so they have a different mentality when you go into it. There's so much of those players who they get the ball, they try to do everything themselves, and it's just it gets a little annoying. It's like, come
Well,
on, man.
because I tell you, I officiated kids basketball the last few years. This year I went down to the second, third grade level, and I'm like, there's too many rules for me to try to interpret that. I couldn't do it. But the fifth and sixth grade, the younger kids, it's so much one man, and it's hardest thing. You can watch coaches trying to tell them about looking around, passing, but not even that. Even the middle schoolers. There's one of the teams that was two guys held the ball. They were like vacuum cleaners. When the ball got to them, nobody else got the ball. There was no working around together. And then what's funny is they wanted a foul on every call, every play. And it's like, I'm not going to call foul every time you charge in like that. It just, it's not basketball. You have to work the teammates in. I will say we did something kind of cool this year, though. In the last game of the whole season, and it was at the middle school level, this one team was trying to get a kid a basket, and you tell, he was behind everybody else, at that age and stuff like that. And they were trying to get him to a basket. And the teams that was trying to get, bump people off so that he could get the shot, and stuff like that. And it was starting to get a little bit rough. So I called timeout and said, stop. We're going to stop this right now. I went to the coach and said, hey, are y'all trying to get this kid a basket? Yeah. Because one of the other kids on the other team's like, he was up and down and all the time. I looked at the kid and I said, they're trying to get him a basket. So I did this. I got the coaches together. This kid got a basket, and there was actually a kid on the other team that had not scored all year, so they both got baskets. So people might say that's whatever. I don't care. I just thought it was, especially for our league and for what it's supposed to be, not trying to toot my own horn, but that's what I love with basketball and sports is when, everybody gets involved and everybody gets to participate. I hate it when it's one man dominated, one player dominated. With Ang, when Ang played years ago, one of my most proud games, she hit the winning shot. But what was cool was 3 of the players, including her, had 6. Somebody else had 4 in the game. It was balanced, and I like balanced basketball. So, but let's do this real quick. We've gotten started. Let me go out here because I was giving everybody a few minutes to come in. Let's greet the chat. It's the wonderful, the incredible, the Snorter Poopas Cuber. Me back. Bring the eats. Hey, did you see that I fed the polar bear earlier? I not only threw a fish at him, I also threw chug splashes at him, which is double good, double the vitamins. So, and hello back to you, and hello from I know from Woopah there. So, comrade,
yes,
Cuber, yes. And Mrs. Dadman walking, who nothing is possible without on my channel, except Woopah. You're going to see a lot of Woopah's handiwork tonight. So great stuff coming, guys. So be ready for it. But Mrs., thank you for being here, my love, and you're always awesome, and I can't pay you enough. Let's see. Snore Poopa said, I thought I had a tire tread once, but it was just a tourist trying to cross the road. No biggie. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. And Jess, everyone wants to be the star. And hello, Jess, wants to be a star nowadays instead of being willing to be a great teammate. Yeah, that happens so often, and that's what it is. And thank you for being here, and thank you for playing earlier. We had a really rambunctious Fortnite stream earlier where we blew a lot of gas stations up and did a lot of crazy stuff. So go back and watch that if you can.
All gas stations beyond notice.
Exactly. And now we got the Angry Canadian. Hello. Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome. Glad to have you here. I'm not sure if you've been in one before, but hey, glad to have you. Hopefully we'll be entertaining. And like I said, there's some great graphics, please, to come along. But glad to have you here. And as I always say to everybody, make sure you smash that like button on this YouTube side. Follow us on the Twitch side. Subscribe on the YouTube side also if you haven't already. We're at 156 subs. Try to get to 200. And we actually have, if you love the Unicorn Fortnite, we got a unicorn drink for me to drink this time at 200. So a little bit different. So, but Snore Poopa said the polar bear was quite pleased. Yes, he was. That was quite funny. One of the NPCs in Fortnite, you can hire a big polar bear with a gun. So, and Snore Poopas, when you're 11 feet tall on your hind legs and weigh 1,500 pounds, nobody wants you on the team. I don't necessarily agree with that. That'd make a great center. What do you think in basketball, though, Woopah? Imagine moving an 11-foot tall center.
I think it'd be good. But as a As the other kid, I think I'd be worried about what Snortopoopas would do. I think you might see the other kids and think, "Oh, snack time."
Snack time. There you go. But hey, well, welcome everybody. Thank you to all the people that are here. Like I said, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here with us, and we're going to have some fun. Oh man, hello. I already got on the Twitch side. Hey, all right. Let's see. So, Woopah, what do you have for us tonight?
Sorry.
So you're good. You're good. I had to go to the Twitch side and do some moderation. We had a self promotion thing over there. One of those bots about they're going to give me all these views and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
On the YouTube side they have like the adult theme bots. On the Twitch side, it seems like it's mostly hey, we want to give you exposure and get you, and we won't charge much. So that's when I want to send out Snortopoopas' 11-foot tall cousin after him. So Snortopoopas, like you said, but when you keep eating the other teammates, yep, I think Woopah was just onto that.
Yeah.
But hey, all right. Well, listen, like I said, we've concluded the regular season of men's college basketball. This last week, we've gone through the conference tournaments. The conference tournament champions win the automatic bid, except in a few conferences, it's the regular season champion where there's not a tournament that may happen. I think the Ivy League is one of the few where that happens.
Ivy League does have, I think all
they
of them have a tournament.
They do depends. Now? That's how I mean, because there was a day years ago, and it was not too long ago, that there were some conferences that did not have it. They gave the birth to the regular season.
I think
champion.
I think all of them do now, but I know that like the Ivy League, I was looking at that. Only the top 4 actually get to go to the tournament. So not everyone qualifies.
Yeah, it's modified. See, some of the other smaller ones like the Atlantic Sun does not let everybody in. I think like 14 teams, they let 8. So yeah, there's different conference rules and different things. But like for last year, the Atlantic Sun got hosed because their tournament winner was ineligible for the NCAA tournament. So that always stinks when that happens. And hello, Castle, welcome. With final. Hopefully it's your final. Hey, got to have you on again to blow some more stuff up too with some Fortniting. But hey, all right. Well, so we've gotten through the conference tournaments. As we've done the last few weeks, Woopah's focused on the Big 12 conference. I focus on the SEC. And Woopah, where do you want to go first? Should we go to the Midwest or to the Southeast?
Let's go to the Midwest first.
All right. Well, you let me know and I'll bring it up, okay?
Yeah, I think I'm ready.
Okay, well, here we go. Starting with our screen.
Yes. The fancy screen courtesy of Mrs. Dadman.
Yes, she made that.
So this is just the review of the Big 12 tournament. You can see Texas won. They were the number 2 seed overall. And this mostly went how you would expect. There wasn't too many upsets. I think the higher seed won in all but 3 of the matchups. So West Virginia won. That pretty much locked them in for the tournament. And Ohio State. I don't know why I keep saying that. I know this is not the first time I said it too. Oklahoma State beat Oklahoma to help move on. They're kind of a bubble team, so that was important for them. For that, Kansas kicked. It was mostly blowouts from there. Kansas kicked butt. Texas kicked butt. Surprisingly, TCU was actually the lower seed, number 6 seed, but they blew out Kansas State. And then the only not close game was this Baylor-Iowa State game. Iowa State beating Baylor for the second time in a row. It really comes down to our rebounding sucks. Iowa State had more offensive rebounds than we had total rebounds. Or I think they have the same amount, which is pretty rough. So,
but yeah, a nice graphic already. Good compliment. Thank you, Angry Canadian. Great job, Woopah. It really does look awesome.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, Kansas City went on to whip up on Iowa State. And this game was kind of close. TCU is really trying to push their seeding higher. They almost knocked off UT, and kind of a surprise because it wasn't surprised that these two teams got here, but Kansas was kind of on top. I think who most people expected to win, but they got blown out, 20-point loss to UT, who ends up winning the Big 12 tournament. So that was very interesting. It's a surprise blowout there for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, usually you have at least a few surprises in your tournament. And usually when tournaments go the way they're, quote, supposed to, they can be very boring. What makes the conference and the NCAAs really cool is when you have those really unexpected upsets. Like if Oklahoma had gone to the semifinals, like if they had beaten Oklahoma State and Texas, that's what makes for drama this time of year.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was hoping for with TCU, even though they are the rivals. So, they had UT on the ropes there for a bit. It looked like they could make it to the finals, which would have been huge for them.
Mm-hmm.
But didn't happen in the end.
Yeah. And you look at them, generally they're pretty, the Baylor, Iowa State, like you had mentioned, that was a close game, but really Texas TCU was a close game, but outside that, nothing else was really very close.
Yeah, a lot of blowouts, which was interesting because even the upsets, UT beating Kansas and TCU beating Kansas State, even though those were upsets and even those were blowouts. So.
Yeah, the final though is what surprised me.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people. I think most people had Kansas winning it all. I did, but certainly if people thought Texas was going to win, they thought it was going to be close because it's been mostly, a lot of Big 12 games have been close all year. There's been a couple blowouts, but a lot. Even Kansas you take a top Kansas versus a lowly Oklahoma. There are a lot of teams that those games were close. So It was not expected, but it is how it is.
Yep. So it was, but what did you think with that game when Baylor lost, though? Were you just disappointed the way the regular season ended? Or did you, I know you talked about being out rebounded, and just, was that uncharacteristic for your squad?
Not too uncharacteristic. Our team is pretty small. We've got a 6'10" starter, but he's not the best. He kind of fills the gap that you can need him to, but he's not really an elite.
He's tall.
Elite scorer. Yeah,
he's tall, and his size gets him on the court. Yeah, what's worse than that is when you're tall and you have the size to get you on the court, but you're not on the court.
Yeah,
I've seen plenty of those guys before. Like, God, if I was only 6'8", 6'10", what I could have been as a basketball player. But no, 5'7", stuck to the floor, set shot 3 points was my career. So anyway.
Hey, there you go.
All righty. Well, any other thing you want to highlight here in the Big 12 tournament review that we have?
Nothing too much. The biggest things really were Oklahoma State. They were kind of fighting. They're one of those bubble teams trying to really get in. They won the game they should have. They didn't win against UT. UT maybe going to the finals. Would that help them get in? That's hard to say.
Mm-hmm.
So, other than that, a lot of this stuff was really. I guess seeding will be interesting. UT and TCU helping their seeding. Kansas State maybe falling a couple after that, but
right. Well, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting with 10 teams. Even though it's the Big 12, there's only 10 teams in the conference for now, as we talked about in other shows, and with football, which I tell you, I get screwed up with the Big 10, which has 12 teams. But, there's 10 in it. So let's pay attention later when we talk about the NCAA field. How many of this 10-team league got into the big dance, as they call it?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And Snorter Poop has commented about my basketball career. but you can duck between their legs and make a shot. I guess, yeah, I guess I can, being short.
Should have thought of that while you were playing.
Hey, I did a pump fake once and maybe in practice and got fouled. And my coach loved it because I finally pump fake for once. But also,
that reminds me of I
Yeah.
forget what coach was that. The one who was talking about his team shot 2 for 13 at the half or something like that. And he said said my wife could shoot 2 for 13 because I know she'd at least pump fake once.
That's too funny. It's the key to the game. I do take it back. I did hit one shot in a game. We played like a ham and egg squad type thing. It was like an exhibition team. We weren't varsity because we were academic school with no sports, but they kind of gave us a school. It was more an intramural squad, but they gave us uniforms and stuff and made a big deal of it. But there's one game though where I had 5 points. I hit a 3, but there was also one where I was at inside the top of the key. Outside the free throw line, and they were playing 2-3 zone, and I don't remember what I did. I pump fake, maybe one bounce, and I did like a jump in the air, pump fake in the air, Michael Jordan type of jump shot from I ended about 14 feet away when I released it, and I hit it. It was like, damn, what could there have been video recording back then? It was just,
that was terrible.
I don't even know. I don't even know how I hit that shot, but it went in. But so
that was almost bad. I was Woopahs are very small, so
yeah.
I was good at I was good in like elementary school because I could jump really high. Even though I wasn't the tallest, I could just jump really high and play good defense. But once people started getting higher than me, or not higher than me, taller than me, it got a little difficult.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, you get lost for the trees. Of course, my friend called us the Stanton, which is the name of the school, the Stanton palm trees, just because I guess they were like standing around like big old palm trees. So yeah, that was the height of our glory back then. So so it was fun those days. So now I decided to take up good old officiating. You want to do something to bless your heart, try officiating. That is definitely something to do. Even you embrace it, you embrace the calls, you embrace the badness, and dadgummit, you have the whistle, you make the call, and you have the final say. And if you make the call and it's wrong, you stick with the call anyway. You just go with it. So, but hey, that's awesome. So, okay. Well, I guess that's what we've got for tonight on the Big 12 then, Woopah. So make sure if you're with us, if you're on Twitch, make sure you follow us over there. If you are on the YouTube side, make sure you subscribe to the channel too. And we're trying to grow it, get it a little bit bigger. And, but have fun along the way while we're doing that. Yeah, I was trying to retweet another thing. So, but hey, all right, Woopah. Anything left? Or we've talked out the Big 12. All right. Now we're to the SEC. My area of the country, being from Florida, we go into the SEC tournament. 12 teams in the Southeastern Conference. 14 teams in the SEC. All 14 teams make the conference tournament. There's a play-ins on the first day with the bottom 4 seeds, seeds 11 to 14, and then they play up based on wins and as the bracket's been established. So as we see here, the first game of the week was South Carolina and Ole Miss. It was a fairly close game. It was a 1-point game at halftime for Ole Miss. And Ole Miss wins a nail biter, extensively wins by 6. We're talking about a battle of the 2 next to worst teams in the conference, so not much to get excited for with this one. With that record, with that win, Ole Miss became 12-20. 12 wins, 20 losses, 3 wins, 15 losses in the conference. And South Carolina finished their season, well, no chance of any postseason, 11-21, 4-14 in the SEC. But one of the games that I would think you could call an upset at this point was the lowest seeded, 14th seeded LSU Tigers knocked off the Georgia Bulldogs in the nightcap. LSU win the game by 5. Georgia got down big at halftime by 12. Rallied in the second half, but still fell short. Georgia finishes the season at 16-16. I have not yet looked. Let me look at something real quick while we do it. But LSU finishes at 14-18, and obviously not another. No chance of postseason berth this year. So Georgia, though, on the other hand, which is a unique story with Georgia this year, was that they had rated Gainesville, the University of Florida's basketball coach, to become their head coach this year. So, I was kind of like, good riddance, goodbye. It made me happy because I wasn't a fan. He found ways to lose games at the end. Just holding the ball at the end of the game and stuff like that. So it's yeah, I do not think Georgia made the NIT either. It does not look like. So anyway, sometimes a 500 team can make the NIT, but it's apparently it didn't happen this year. I think numbers will get to it because we also, like we talked about on the 10-team Big 12 tournament conference, how many of their teams of 10 will get into the NCAA? How many have a winning record that get dumped down to the NIT? All that has a effect because if more get in the NCAA, other people get fewer bids. So how many would the SEC get? So Georgia ends its season at 16-16 at that point. So then they move to the games on Thursday, March 9th. The first game was Ole Miss at Tennessee against Tennessee. Tennessee wins this game going away, stifling up on defense in the second half, limiting Ole Miss to 22 points in a pretty comfortable win. And the Gators lose again. Hey, Gators finished 16-16, but I do know that they made the NIT tournament, even with a 500 record. So go figure. They had a better conference record overall than Georgia did in the end, which is, I know I'm jumping ahead with that, but there's no threat for Florida in the NCAA. But see, Georgia finished 6-12 in the conference. The Gators finished 9-9 in the conference. So that's probably the reason why they got to the NIT when Georgia didn't. Let's see. But Florida did scare Mississippi State, who was a borderline potential NCAA tournament team with an at-large bid. Florida beating Mississippi State could have been very bad on Mississippi State's resume. And you'll hear us talk about resume. One of the things that go into considerations for teams making the NCAA tournament and stuff, they talk about resumes, bodies of work. That has to do with the teams that they play during the year, the schedules, both within the conference and their non-conference schedules. Did they go on the road and play tough teams, or did they just play cupcakes all year, automatic wins, or paycheck teams that just plan to get slaughtered? So, that's when we talk about terms like that, they mean things. And of course, if you have any questions, when we use a term, I use a term, please don't hesitate. Please don't hesitate to ask a question because that's why we're here. I love to talk. I love talking basketball. I know Woopah likes talking basketball too. Gives us a chance to shine here with this sport with our 4 wonderful people that are hanging with us. Thank you all that are here. And thank you for hanging out with us tonight. And if you have questions with basketball, make sure you let us know and don't hesitate to ask. Or you want some more career playing or referee stories, we got those. The third matchup today was Arkansas at Auburn. This is an SEC rivalry in the West. Arkansas pulls away with a 3-point win, but a nail biter. But the Pigs end up advancing over the Auburn Tigers, who actually started the season ranked and a lot more expectations. And to finish up the day for the second day of action, Vanderbilt put away LSU, where LSU now ends the season as the worst of the SEC teams, ending at 14-19. Vanderbilt was 19-13, 11-7 in the SEC. So we shall see what. Yeah, I know you see the graphic, but we'll see what happens in their long-term tournament hopes coming up. Bringing us to the Friday matchups, Alabama dispatches and dismantles Mississippi State in a blowout by 23 points. Game never in doubt, 20-point lead at halftime for Alabama, who is fourth ranked in the nation, had been ranked number one in the nation a few weeks ago. They also were in line to maybe be one of the number one seeds in one of the regions, and we'll have to see how that worked out. The disappointing matchup for me was that Tennessee lost to Missouri. I know the fans of Knoxville have got to be unhappy. They expected more out of their season this year, but give the Tigers credit. With this win, really a good year for Missouri. Maybe better things for them coming up forward. Last week we talked about the scheduling, maybe some wins because of the scheduling, ease of schedule, the body of work, but a nice win in the tournament here to build on your resume, handling Tennessee by this. And really it was a battle of halves. In the first half, Tennessee had a 3-point lead, but Missouri ended up taking the lead and stretching it out, outscoring Tennessee 49-38 in the second half. The next game was Texas A&M at Arkansas. Looked like the Pigs gave this is a bigger battle of two halves. Arkansas really had threatened the 18th ranked A&M, who I picked having to go all the way and win the conference tournament. But the Pigs were up 13 at the half, 38-25. But Texas A&M turned on the defense, limited Arkansas to 23 points in the second half, outscored Arkansas by 19 points to pull away with a 67-61 win. And you'll see, if you follow basketball a lot of times, just don't give up. There's a game can go one way at the half and then completely change in the second half. It's truly a game of momentum. And you see, to Woopah's point, while we like college basketball, things like this happen so much more than they do in the NBA. Or when they do, it's so much more intense than the professional games. And this would have been a game I would have loved to be at to see the change in momentums. That just, whoo boy, that's a good game. And then I can call this, I don't think it's an upset, but I know I had Vanderbilt and A&M, I believe. And Vanderbilt beats Kentucky again, 80-73 in the nightcap. Wildcats, very pedestrian, 21-11. They finish up the regular season and tournament, but Vanderbilt moves on. As we see that Vanderbilt's record is 20-13 at this point. Again, it's one of those teams. 20 wins does not guarantee you NCAA tournament appearance anymore. How did their body of work turn out? And so we'll have to see, was this win enough? Which brings up brings us to Saturday. We got the games, Alabama, Missouri. Even though this game was 11-point difference here, it really was a tighter game. Missouri actually led, was only down 2 at half, and actually pulled ahead in the second half and really punched Alabama in the nose, but the Tide got hot down the stretch. Missouri cooled off a bit and Alabama outscored Missouri by 9 in the second half to win 72-61. And then in the second game, Texas A&M was just too much for Vanderbilt. Again, we see a game with Texas A&M with the way it rallied, being down and coming back to win. That doesn't always happen. Vanderbilt, though, was down 24 points. They outscored Texas A&M by 12 in the second half and still ended up losing by 12 points. So one of the key things is, rallies can happen, but you don't want to be down more than 10 at halftime. It just puts you into a hole and you just dig further. Then we move to the conference championship game on Sunday, which is obviously Alabama, Texas A&M. I was wrong. I expected Texas A&M's defense to stand up, to do something, to really put the hold on Alabama, but no. Alabama scores 82, including 48 in the second half, to win, going away by 19 points, and to win the SEC men's basketball tournament title for this year. So that, in a nutshell, is the Southeastern Conference regular season tournament and tournament ending. So Woopah, what do you think? Did you have any observations of your own about the SEC tournament? Anything you noticed with the scores or anything you may have seen over the weekend?
Yeah, I noticed that Vanderbilt obviously looking pretty good, all things considered, beating Kentucky for the second time in 2 weeks, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty big deal.
Once at
And
Rupp, Vanderbilt won at Rupp and on the neutral site.
yeah, so they're certainly making a case. Already finished, but they were sixth in the regular season for the SEC, and then making the semifinals there. Pretty big deal. Mizzou, I think this got them ranked. Were they already ranked? I forget, but beating Tennessee, I think a lot of people didn't necessarily give them a lot of credit for beating Tennessee the first time because it was on the buzzer beater, but this time it's still a fairly close game, closer than the 8-point spread would suggest, but definitely a much more convincing win there. And they were sticking with Alabama through the first half a lot, and the second half is kind of where it got out of hand, so that's going to help them a lot. Mississippi State, I wonder how this will affect their bracket chances, just because that Florida game did go into OT and then going to Alabama getting blown out. I know Alabama's I think at this point they were number 3, definitely a consensus top team in the nation, but getting beat by as badly as they did by 23, I wonder if will they view this as a positive or a negative for them?
Yeah, great observations there. It just, we talk about the resume's bodies of work. Point differentials do matter at times, especially with a team like Mississippi State that was just on the threshold. I think as of last week, they were like at the last 4 in or just had passed that spot, but barely beating a very, I'd say very not good Florida team. You can't help your resume. Your only way to offset that is by showing up and having a good game against Alabama, especially on a neutral site. And you lose it by 23. It just, probably not much to say, but we'll have to see what happened with the final selections.
Yeah, do you want to get into those now?
Yep. I mean, we've covered the conference tournaments. We're at 40 minutes in. Let me just give a reminder to everybody. Make sure do you want me to take screen down? I can take screen down while you switch.
Oh, no, it's fine. I just have to, it's on the next slide. So everything's
okay. Well, anyway, I'm going to take it down so they can look at our glorious avatars. My banana and your Woopah. Whooper. But folks, make sure if you on Twitch, make sure you like and follow us over there on the YouTube side. Like, comment on the thing, chat with us, share it out to your friends. We try to do some things different. Like I said earlier, we had a rambunctious Fortnite stream, really blowing some stuff up and having a lot of fun earlier. You did some new things, I think. I actually disintegrated the truck this time in the gas station explosion.
Nice.
That was awesome. It did not come out baked Alaska. So anyway, all right. Or bananas Foster flambe or whatever you want to call it. So, but anyway, follow us, sub to people, tweet it out to your friends. Tell them, we do all kinds of different stuff. Go back, watch our videos. It's not just Fortnite. It's not just football or sports. We do some show and tells where I show some collections and different things. The missus and I have detours with the Dadman, which we got another one coming up that I'm going to talk about shortly. Just a little bit of different stuff, just kind of not be your normal YouTube stuff. We don't get into pop culture and all that stuff and try to stay out of controversial stuff. Sometimes we have to hit the edges of it some with sports, only because you really sometimes can't avoid it. But we try not to really go into that because you know what? We want a happy place and have laughs. We don't want to be Twitter. We want to be
Yeah.
Something fun, fun and escapism. Better than anything you can find from Hollywood. We even had polar bears with us. So on a really good night, we really have the polar bears with us. And we got corn cob with us. So what more do you want? And now we got angry Canadians. Hey, I'm excited. So, and we had the wonderful misses. So, and all the great mods, Jess out there. So thank you everybody being here. So, all right, now Woopah.
Yes.
This used to be a 64 field tournament. Before that, it was like 48 or whatever. It's expanded over the years, and I don't remember the year specifically. But then they came up with this new idea because everybody hated the teams that got left out. Those few couple that could have gotten in, if they could have won it all if they just got invited, but they just missed out. So now they come up with something called the first four. So now it's a 68 field team. Do you remember? If you don't remember what year that happened, that's okay. But this has got to be at least 15 years or something that this has been going on. And talk about what this first four is.
Yeah. So I'm trying to look and see when it came into effect, but I think it's interesting. I kind of think it's always been a little bit of I'm not huge on it because it feels like it never really amounts to much in the end.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see a statistic on it. I don't really know, but I really wonder how many times the team that plays in the Force 4 actually wins a game once you get into the normal bracket. It never doesn't seem to happen often.
Well, sometimes the 11 seeds may do it, but
the 16 seeds have never done it. The 11 seeds, I don't think it happens often, especially because you play that game and now you've got to play the next day or so. You're going to be pretty worn out.
Well, I've got an answer to the question here, because originally it was two. I'll read this. When did the first four start as part of March Madness? In 1999, the Mountain West Conference was added to Division I. In its second season, the 2000-2001 campaign, the conference received an automatic bid for the first time, bumping the total number of automatic qualifiers, automatic qualifiers are those that win those conference tournaments and get the conference's automatic bid to the tournament. They could be 2 wins all or 20 wins and no loss. Who wins that tournament is the automatic qualifier. So jump the number to 31 out of the 64. So because of that, the total number of teams went up to 65. So from 2001 to 2010, it was the opening round game where the 2 worst seeded teams played on Tuesday after Selection Sunday. Okay. Then in 2011, the NCAA tournament expanded again to 68 teams with the 31 automatic qualifiers, 37 at-large bids. And so the first four was then created to trim this from 68 to 64 for the first round. So that's the history of that. I did not know that till I just Googled that. Those are some good observations, because really not much happens with that. Teams come out of that.
It doesn't exactly get a lot of coverage either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they play in Dayton also. How did Dayton get selected?
Gosh, I have no idea. I guess Dayton has. The Dayton college basketball team is a pretty solid team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were pretty good this year. I think that they had a pretty good season. We'll have to see if they made the tournament or not. But at one point I know that they were high up in the conference. So
they were number 2 in their conference, I believe.
No.
The regular season, at least.
No. Yeah, that first four is going to be harder to find on the record on the fly. But let me say hello. Yes, Snore Poopas has said earlier, angry Canadians and polar bears are a lethal combination. Yeah, and angry Canadians saying, yes, indeed. Hail to you, input latency. Hope you're doing well. All right, Angry Canadian, thanks for stopping by. I hope you get to watch the rest later. But hey, thanks for coming by. Thanks for being here. Appreciate your support.
See you, man.
Yeah, see, because before it was like the worst seeds. Now that they throw that 11th seed in there, and I think I'm having difficulty trying to figure out the history of the first 4 records. Let's see, but it's.
I don't think. I mean, I don't think it always used to be just 16 and 11 because I feel like I remember some lower seeds sometimes getting it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I thought at one point they were doing 12 seeds at one point, but I think it's the because also I'm sitting there thinking like, why are 11 seeds like the last people getting in? I would think it'd be the 15 seeds and stuff like that, but then again, it's that there's automatic qualifiers though, and they get in. They have to be seated in certain slots. They
so yeah, I guess they take the last 4 automatic qualifiers, how they're ranked, and then the last 4 at-large bids.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, so I can't find it, but it's let's see. Well, here I found something. Let's thank y'all while we're having fun researching and stuff. Because that's what I love. The beauty is that sometimes this stuff comes on the fly, and as you start to talk, you just there are things you think about that you can't ever come up with. Think about in planning ahead. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, it's generally let's see. In the first year, VCU in 2011, VCU went from number 11 playing USC in Dayton in the first 4 to playing in the Final 4 in Houston.
Oh,
I remember that. That was Shaka Smart, right? I think I remember that year. Yeah, and in 2020. And in 2020 and 21, UCLA went first 4 to the Final 4 after beating number 1 Michigan in the Elite 8.
Oh,
so
maybe I do remember that VCU year. Though.
Yeah,
I think that was the one year I picked a team to move on. I didn't pick them to go that far, but I did pick them to beat.
Yep. Well, get this. So far, since 2011. So far, 2019 is the only tournament where at least one at-large first 4 team failed to win a game in the 64-team bracket.
Huh.
So every year, at least one of them have won a game in a round. Notre Dame beat number 6 Alabama before falling to number 3 Texas Tech in 2022. Let me do something real quick while we have this. Before this, I'll bring this. Let's see. Let me make sure I got this on the right side and show you all the right things and not the wrong things. And here, let's see. Present, share screen. Hey guys, thank you for your patience. I'm multitasking and I'm learning more and more about StreamYards than I ever wanted to know these days. But here, you asked how the first 4 teams do. And folks, this seems like something stupid or like trivial, but we've got some records. Teams come out of this first days of the tournament and have advanced in quite a bit. So you had 11 and 12 seed VCU and Clemson. See, Clemson advanced, but then lost in the first round. But VCU went all the way to probably the Final 4 and lost to Butler. I remember the news was big on that. Then let's see. Yeah. Basically, there's some losses. See, LaSalle in 2012-13. They moved out of the first round, beat Ole Miss in the second round, and then lost in the before the Sweet 16. Tennessee was a number 11 team also. So a lot of your team. See, this is what's kind of deceiving with the final these first 4 to me is that you got teams from big conferences that can play basketball in it. You sort of think that these are the last people in terms of like weaker schools, smaller competition, but these are just happen to be the last teams that were given at-large berths in the tournament. Because we see like Tennessee now. Then there's a dry run, and there's nobody really advances. I think most years nobody really advances far. The VCU was a weird year. The UCLA we see down here was a strange year. So, but your point is generally you're not going to have a lot of success coming out of these games. You don't want to be playing these games because generally the you got another round of games and history's not on your side, but it can be done though. So, all righty. Well, that's that on the first four though. All right, Woopah. So let's talk about the first four. What do we have here? I will bring it up.
Yeah, so we've got the two 16 seed games and the two 11 seed games here. First, to get into the number 16 seed in the South, we have Texas A&M Corpus Christi versus Southeast Missouri State. And 16th seed for the East, we have Texas Southern versus Farley Dickinson. All four of those teams are the ones got the automatic qualifier, won their tournament, so they moved on. Then for kind of I guess the last four at-large bids, you have Mississippi State, so they did sneak in with that, winning that one game in the SEC tournament. You've got Pitt, you got Arizona State, and Nevada.
First thought that comes to mind had Mississippi State beaten Florida by a better margin and actually made a game against Alabama. Could they have been, higher seed? And I think even more surprising, though, and we talked about this a while back, Pittsburgh was leading the ACC at one point, and they find themselves just struggling to get into the tournament. I'm kind of confused how that happens, especially for such a power conference.
It's very interesting because it's not like they were leading it, way early. They were leading it when we first started these streams. So.
Yeah, because they were having
wonder too if Florida ended up winning, does Mississippi State fall off altogether?
Yeah, it was a 1-point overtime game. It could have easily happened, but oh man, that's what makes this time of year so dramatic and so interesting. All the woulda, coulda, shouldas.
Yeah,
with it. So, yeah, I honestly though I don't see anybody going far out of these. Maybe Pitt actually could be, because again I'm still surprised that there's such a low seed, comparatively speaking. Let me see. Let me do something real quick. I'm just trying to see where they ended up with that in their conference, because they may not have had a good tournament appearance, but still, it's let's see. I'm just looking up their standings in the ACC real quick so we can talk about that. Atlantic Coast Conference. Well, they finished fifth in the conference. They ended up at 22-11. Finished behind Duke, though. It's still just kind of amazes me that they. I don't know. I don't quite get how they fell to the 11th seed, but oh well. The committee puts together. It allows for us to have a good discussion. So, all right.
It's a bit interesting. I'm happy to see Arizona State in, just because they caught a little bit of fire at the end. They weren't really expected to go in, and then they beat Arizona in a big-time game that kind of catapulted them up into the fringe of the tournament. So that's pretty good.
Yep. So, all righty. So, all right, we've got the first four. Shall we pick now on these, or
no? Not yet.
Not yet. All right, gosh. Okay, just making sure. We're just we're still in tournament overview. So we move to the South. The first brackets. There are four regions with 68 teams. Technically, at one point they used city names, and they quickly got rid of that and went back to the geographical references. So South won, and oh my God, look at that! Show up at a Mice Brings a Football. Hi, Squeaka. Go Packers.
Squeaka.
Hey, go Packers.
I don't know if the Packers are going to win.
No, I don't even know if they
There
got a
is
team
a
from
team.
Wisconsin. There
I
is?
said there are some Wisconsin teams. I don't know if Wisconsin themselves are in it, but there are other Wisconsin teams.
That's awesome. All right. Well, Woopah, we got this top of part. Oh man, now I'm hungry after talking about cheese and cheese again. So, which also could be another topic about what oh God, what's his name's going to, what team he's going to end up with, but that'll be a different story. Aaron
Oh, yeah.
Rodgers. That's a different story for a different day. Hey, wouldn't it be funny if he ended up with the Dallas Cowboys?
That'd be interesting.
I would love
like
him to have a real quarterback for once. So anyway, I wonder to see if Squeaker groans on that one. So anyway, love you, Squeaker. So hey, your observations that you have. This is the top half of the South bracket.
Yep.
It has.
So that's the number one seed, the side of the number one seed, and then next we'll get to the side of the number 2 seed.
Yeah. So do we know which game comes in from the first four?
That's Texas A&M, Corpus Christi versus Southeast Missouri State.
What is it with the daggum Texas teams with all the 200-word names?
Yeah,
I mean, there's Texas A&M Canesville, there's Texas A&M Corpus Christi. It's like everybody's got hyphen. Anyway, sorry,
that's
another rampage I have.
There's a lot of side Texas A&M names, and there's also North Carolina. You got many different UNCs.
Wilmington
that split off.
Yeah,
Wilmington.
It's insane.
Asheville. Asheville.
Yeah.
I think there's another one too. It's like, oh gosh, can't keep them straight.
No, you get crazy.
Put them all in the same North Carolina. Come on.
Yeah, just throw a dart at it. Right? Yeah, exactly. It's just so funny with the names of them, and Squeaka comes in, and thank you, Squeaka. You have great information, Squeaka. Thank you. There's smaller schools that were adopted into the much larger, the bigger school system, and that's kind of how it is around. We don't have that as much here in Florida. Usually they're all big schools, but it's interesting to see how they do that. Give them the thing.
Missouri has it because
they have, even Texas, even like she said, University of Texas has several campuses. You got UT Austin. That's why North Carolina is UNC Chapel Hill. Chapel Hill is based on where they're located. So thank you, Squeaker, for that info. So
yeah.
What are your looking at the matchups in this region, just from a general standpoint? How do you think the seedings went? Or teams you see that are surprised to see here?
I guess the surprise, and I know they are ranked, but it's still a little interesting to see San Diego State as high as they are. They play in the Mountain West, I believe. Mm-hmm. Not exactly like a power conference for football or basketball. And I believe that they've only played 2 games against ranked competition. They've lost both of them. So up here at a 5 seed with a pretty weak schedule, all things considered, is kind of surprising. I think that could be a prime upset candidate.
Well, let me ask you a question, though. Yeah, that could be. And 12-5 is one of those matchups that historically has had a lot of upsets coming out in the NCAA tournaments.
I think they said every year for the last 10 years, there's been at least one 12 seed that wins. So,
I'm going to look something up quick. But I got a question for you about going back to the Big 12. West Virginia, considering how early they left the Big 12 tournament, I mean, I know they. What do you think? Are you surprised to see them in the field?
I'm not surprised to see him. I guess it makes sense given I think everything after 11 is an automatic bid, but I am a little surprised that they wouldn't be a 10 or 11 on this end because they are kind of they didn't do great in the Big 12. They're kind of on the fringe there, so I'm a little surprised. I guess it's not too. I'm not surprised that they made it. I guess I'm a little surprised that they're as high as they were. They don't seem like a super formidable opponent.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, because we were talking about the history of that, number 5 seeds are 95 and 53 versus number 12 seeds since 1985 when the field expanded to 64 teams. So it expanded to 64 teams in 1985. 2000 went to 65 because of the conference that was added for automatic bids. And then 2010 it became 68 teams. So that's the history. But 95 and 53, 5 seeds are against 12 teams. And let's see. In 2022, last year's tournament saw 2 5 seeds go down in the opening round. Richmond took down Iowa 67-63 as a 10-point underdog, and New Mexico State downed UConn 70-63 as a +7 dog. And by the way, I'm only using those from the article and as a statistical reference. We are not a gambling site. Do not use us for gambling. When we do predictions and stuff, it is not points, wagers, or anything else. You're at your own risk if you try to use me, if anybody, to try to pick anything. So, just make that clear. But in this case, the points are being used to indicate how big of an underdog team was, and to try to put this upset in a context. Richmond being a 10-point underdog from a much smaller conference, beating and upsetting a power conference like some Iowa from the Big Ten is a huge upset.
And I think it makes sense too when you think about. I think 12 down is all the automatic qualifiers. So 12 seeds basically the top, who they consider at least the selection committee thinks are the best automatic qualifiers. So
yep. Hey, guess what? 2021, my Beavers, Oregon State was a 12 seed, upset Tennessee 70-56. What was unique about that was we were camping with the in-laws, and I was sneaking away to keep up with March Madness. Shh, don't tell the missus that. But it's like the Beavers went and they beat Oklahoma State, the 4th seed. They beat Loyola Chicago. They had the nun as part of the feel good story. 8 seed Loyola Chicago in the Sweet 16, but eventually they lost to 2 seed Houston. So it's so there are recent histories with these things. I think back in 2010, Cornell beat Temple. Richmond beat here. I'm going to show the screen real quick here. Let me do my protective stuff and hit F11 like the missus reminds me to. So here we got some of the histories here of the upsets. Richmond beating Vanderbilt 69-66. Ole Miss defeats Wisconsin in 2013.
I see one of those. I remember very well.
There you go. In 2014, North Dakota State beats Oklahoma in overtime. And Harvard beats Cincinnati. So, it just...
you got 2016, Yale defeats Baylor.
Yep. Oh, bad memory.
Well, I remember that. That was the first year I was there.
Hey, wait. Yes, Snorta. Wait, no, not... They're not food this time. Snorta poops. Yeah, sorry about that. Oh.
You're fine. I remember that because that was the one where our players got upset at the questions people were asking afterwards. Because what's his name? Torian Prince, big deal, ended up going fairly high in the draft. And they said how, because we had the number one, I think we had the number 1 rebounder in the nation that year. We were a pretty big team then. Big size-wise, not necessarily big,
right?
Otherwise, but someone asked the reporter, said, "How does Yale out rebound Baylor?" And Torian Prince said, "Well, you see, a rebound is when you go up, shot misses, and you jump up, grab it with both hands, and come down with it." And Yale did that more times than us.
Oh my God, what an answer!
He was ticked off. You just, I guess it's college. You're not allowed to cuss someone out. No. So he just tried to give the snarkiest answer possible.
Yeah,
well, it was fun. It made the loss hurt a little less.
Yeah, that's cool. But reporters do ask some very stupid questions too and stuff like that. But blocking out, that's first thing is Snorpupus, it's okay. You can take one off the side of the range if you want. We just don't just keep it, just make sure we don't miss too many of them. So, but hey, Actually, yeah, that's kind of cool to have stories like that, because especially the drama and all. And
Yeah.
we'll go back into the bracket now, so we can keep moving forward. I, one team that I personally have a hatred for is the University of Virginia. I
I've heard
feel like
that.
they've always been overrated. Every year they're overrated. They're like Wisconsin. They don't score points. They supposedly play defense. They're just very bleh. They don't play good, exciting basketball to watch. I just don't like watching them. And then, granted, yeah, they did win a title recently, but they're also the history of the University of Virginia and NCAA tournament. They are the only number one seed to have lost to a 16 seed. And I remember that University of Maryland, Baltimore County, bring out the hyphens again. There was a riot around this house when, both kids went nuts and crazy with that win, especially my oldest.
It was huge, and there had been some scares in
Yeah.
previous years. It was starting to look more and more likely, but all of those games were like, I think one went into OT, and a few were like 1 or 2 point wins. This was like, I think UMBC won by almost 20.
This was an ass kicking. It was an embarrassment for a number one
and you
seed.
kept waiting, like, okay, are they going to start scoring now? Like, what's going on? That never happened.
Nope, it wasn't. So, well, that's the top half of the South region. So, where do we want to go now?
We'll go to the bottom of the South.
All righty.
So,
two, we have the higher seeds. It's the 2 and 3 is the higher seeds. Arizona is the 2 seed. Baylor's the 3 seed. Yeah, there you go, Woopah. Yeah, I'll let you talk. Your team's in this bracket, so you go ahead and cover some more from there.
Yeah, so we've got some interesting ones, I think, because you're looking at Creighton has kind of I feel like the South is kind of a weaker bracket overall. Which I guess if they consider Alabama the true number one seed, maybe they're just giving them the easier teams. But Creighton, I don't think is ranked right now. They've fallen off the rankings. Seeing an unranked team get 6th is a little odd. Because let me pull out my phone calculator real quick. I can do some math, but I think if you do 25 divided by 6, that should be, so there should, in theory, be able to have 24, or all the top 6 seeds be the ranked teams. But, and you've got Baylor here at number 3. They were at a number 2 seed projected, but after some rough late season, I guess, slipped into 3. You see Missouri here. In a number 7 seed, which is, again, interesting because they are a ranked team. They're ranked and Creighton's not, and Creighton gets the higher seed. And Utah State almost was an automatic bid, but ended up not mattering. They got in anyways. And then, Arizona and the Ivy League Princeton here. So.
Yeah, I want to look at that Princeton Arizona as a possible upset, but that's almost one of those that might be too tempting. But looking at the bracket, if I was a Baylor fan, I'd be happy with this bracket. I don't see anybody that's unbeatable. No really hot team. Arizona has had its problems in recent years. Missouri has had a good year, but still,
I honestly, if I was in this bracket, I think Missouri would be the one I'm looking at. They, it's not a guarantee, but they're looking pretty good lately.
And they played Alabama tough. Could you imagine seeing the Missouri-Alabama for the regional final?
It could happen.
Yeah, it could happen. And by the way, while we speak of that, one of the other arts of the seeding, and one of the reasons why they have some of these teams bigger conferences at 11, they don't they purposely in the first round do not match up conference opponents. So like Baylor will not play an Oklahoma State or a Texas in the first round. They have got it split up. Even if they have 12 teams, they work them so that nobody meets, I think, till not necessarily the Sweet 16, but it might be in the round before that. But they will never meet in the first round. So you won't see a rival in the first round.
I think they do have it set up for the they won't meet until the Sweet 16.
Yeah, so it's kind of good that way, Because it
Yeah.
kind of sucks. I mean, where's your reward? The whole beauty of playing a tournament like this is you play teams that you never played before. You see teams from other conferences, and
Yeah, you don't want to see the basketball team see the team they've already played 2 times, or depending
three
on how the
times
conference
sometimes.
tournament
Yeah.
goes, 3 times. I guess you kind of assume that the conference record speaks for itself. There, you don't want repeats if you can avoid it.
Yep. All righty. Well, anything else out of the South before we move on? Preview the next bracket.
No, that's all I got.
All right. Well, let's
on
go
to the East here.
All right.
So that 16 matchup is what is that 16 matchup? Sorry, I'm spacing. Oh, that's Farley Dickinson and where the other people are. Texas Southern.
Texas Southern, another Texas school.
Yeah. At least they're a little shorter. But Purdue got the number 1 seed. There was a bit, people weren't sure who would get that last number 1 seed. Kind of had Houston, Alabama, and Kansas written into there. But I think UCLA and Purdue were kind of a question mark for the last one. So Purdue does get it. Memphis ended up beating Houston in the American Conference Finals, I remember. So they're 8 seed here. You have Duke and Tennessee here. Duke at a 5 seed. I know some people are surprised that Duke wasn't higher. I'm kind of surprised that they were as high as they were. Maybe just name recognition there. And Oral Roberts, the big noisemaker 2 years ago, was it? With I don't forget if it was 2 years or if it was last year when they beat Ohio State as a 15th seed.
Let's see. I took that article down. That's usually what happened, I don't think it was last year though. Let's see. Oh, hold on a second. I'm trying to not hit the wrong things. So
no problem. Yeah, this is it's interesting. A lot of these, we talked about it in the last few. There's not a ton of teams that feel unbeatable. You're looking at this and saying, there's some teams here that you're like, oh, they could be pretty good. Some teams that you're like, well, I don't know, maybe they get a upset here.
Yeah. So it looks like it was 2021.
Okay.
They lost to Arkansas in the Sweet 16 matchup by 2 points. So.
Oh yeah, that means pretty close.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add to this one?
Just probably intriguing is that Memphis Florida Atlantic game, because Florida Atlantic is from obviously down here, but kind of one of those up and coming schools. Really, what can they do? You know what? Do you remember the name Sidney Green?
I don't actually.
He was an old NBA player, like from the 80s. I can't remember the teams he played with. Well, he was a coach for Florida Atlantic years ago when they were in the conference with JU for a couple of years, and he was the new coach down there. And I just remember the big old 7-footer sitting a few rows up behind me, and I knew who it was and said hi and stuff like that. But it's interesting to see them up and coming, especially getting to a 9 seed. From a state school that really was not big at one point. And you got Florida Atlantic, they're not like your Florida States or your Miamis or even your USFs, which have been around a while. They're not as big as like UCF, but now you're starting to see their name up there as much, at least in basketball, as the UCFs and stuff. It's kind of interesting to see how they're going to do this year. The intriguing match I got, is that Duke Oral Roberts game. Are we going to have the Oral Roberts from 2021 again? Duke's won 9 in a row, so Duke is hot.
Yeah, they just won the ACC tournament.
So, I mean, what rules out here? So, just a couple observations I had with that, just looking at the bracket. Nobody that I'm surprised about, what the heck are they there for? But either way, we just know that Purdue's going to roll in the first round. But I know we're picking later, but that's a sacrificial lamb 16th seed there. There's no chance of Maryland Baltimore County with that one.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go to the bottom half of the East bracket then, and Woopah. This is kind of interesting. First at the top is Kentucky, and you got Michigan State, Old Sparty there, but the 2 seed is Marquette. That's a name that has not been up in basketball circles since probably the 60s, I think. I mean, it's been so long since they've been so dominant.
It's been a while since, back when the Big East was as big as it was. Marquette has not been as high. That's what I'm talking about with the Wisconsin teams. Marquette is running high right now. They did win the tournament, I believe. So they're a number 2 seed, and I think they're pretty highly touted number 2 seed with that. Probably took the spot of Baylor, honestly. But I like the fact that you have number 7 versus number 10. You've got the Spartans versus the Trojans. So that's always fun to think about.
The men of Troy against the men of Sparta. Oh man!
Yeah.
Bring back the Greek mythology. Woohoo! Where's Helen at? Snorpoopas? Where's Helen? I'm sorry. Oh gosh.
You have Providence here, which is interesting. Providence was ranked not too long ago, but had a pretty rough fall off. I think they fell off the rankings now, and now it looks like they've got one of the last automatic bids at the 11th seed. So
that's what I was going to ask you. Was it being the 11? Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to beat some of the last ones in. So. What about Kentucky? Do you think Kentucky's high or low seed for where it's slotted?
I think it's hard to say. I think they're about in a good spot. Usually you expect them to be higher, but I think losing to Vandy twice in a row to end out their season, that's going to hurt them pretty big. Even if they got the bye in the SEC, that's when you're trying to make your last impressions, and that's not a great one there.
Okay, Snortopoopas, thank you. Absolutely. You know what we talked about, body of work and resume, and timing of some of these losses and stuff. It all factors into how they, not necessarily that you get into the tournament, but how you see where you put, sometimes what region you go to. I mean, generally they try to keep people close to home as they can. The regions falling off and barely get in. You're going out west if you're an Eastern team.
Yeah, and it matters too. Like the skill of the people you beat. Vandy was number 6 in the seed for SEC, but they're kind of a fringe team. We haven't seen them yet. We might later. But it's not like you're losing to if you lose. Baylor had a lot of rough losses, but they lost to Kansas State. We haven't seen Kansas, but I'd be shocked if they're not number 1. Kansas State here, number 3. And Iowa State, which was ranked. I don't think they're ranked anymore, but they were ranked not too long ago. So those are these good teams you're losing to. Vanderbilt, a fringe tournament team, that's going to drop you a little bit lower than others would. I would say maybe this is I'm a little surprised that Kentucky's 6th and Duke is 5th. I guess Duke coming off the ACC tournament win helps them a lot. But other than that, if you're looking at just the regular season, you definitely take Kentucky over Duke.
And Duke is 26-8 also, so they didn't have 10 losses. Kentucky had 11, I believe. So and winning your conference tournament says a lot. You have to reward the teams for performance, and that's what they do. Conference championships do matter.
And you say that, and Kansas State is here at number 3. They didn't even win one game in the SEC tournament. So,
well, it can be good, it can be bad, and it may not even make a darn difference. So, all right. Well, we've done the East now. So, where are we going now? The Midwest.
Going to the Midwest.
All right.
So, we've got Houston here. They did lose the American Championship, but other than that, I think they only have 3 losses on the year. You have Auburn here at number 9 seed, even though they didn't win a game in the SEC tournament, and they were kind of a fringe team as well.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Dan?
I was going to say Northern Kentucky, the Norse. They used to
Norse.
be in the Atlantic Sun for a year or two as they started moving up to up conferences. So it was just a name. It's just so funny. Everybody likes Vikings, and also, hey, there's your Vikings right there, the Norse.
Yep. Got Spartans, we got Trojans, we got Vikings. We're going crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got Indiana here. I know Indiana at number 4, maybe a bit of surprise because they also, a team that ended poorly. And you have Miami. I think they were the regular season ACC champions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that they were regular season champions. I think they tied with Virginia overall
Mm-hmm.
in overall records. So let's see what the record was. First, yeah, Miami was considered first in the ACC. Sorry, I keep trying to call everybody SEC. So, but Miami won the regular season. Duke wins the conference championship and the automatic berth, and they get the Drake Bulldogs in that first round. So that could be. I don't know enough about Drake, but that could be a danger game because Miami has been a team also that they've been disappointing at times in the tournament.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Probably. I mean, I'm not. That's probably the one that's kind of out of this bracket. That Iowa Auburn matchup just looks horrible. I hate all Iowa sports because it's just so boring. But Auburn has been a big disappointment too, even with Bruce Pearl and coming on back of some good teams in recent years. But just a ninth seed, barely getting in, just not that attractive, not that sexy of a team. This is really kind of a plain bracket, I think. Also. A team like Indiana or Miami has a good chance coming out and through.
Maybe.
I think Houston from the American Conference. I mean, still doesn't get respect, but then again, the American Athletic Conference, is not the Big 12, the Big 10, the SEC. There is a difference. So, it would be interesting because isn't Houston's coach Kelvin Sampson?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
I think it is because Indiana. I think he used to coach at Indiana, or do I have the teams reversed? Because it's one of those that could be visiting your old. Yeah, he's at Houston now, and he used to coach. I think for a time. Yes, 06 to 08, he coached at Indiana. So then he was assistant in the NBA for a few years, and so. But yeah, Kelvin Sampson is now the head coach at Houston. So imagine if Indiana and Houston play, in the elite. I think that should be probably the Sweet 16 at that point.
Yep.
So I am a note there. So, all right. Midwest number 2. How does that look?
Yep. So we've got Iowa State here at the start. At the number 6, they'll play whoever wins Mississippi State and Pitt.
Mm-hmm.
Got Xavier. Texas A&M here. Surprised that they're only a 7th seed.
Right.
Because they're a ranked team. They're, I know some of it depends on region, but you're talking about Kentucky as a 6th seed. And A&M, Kentucky didn't make it out of the quarterfinals. A&M made it to the finals, and I think they both had the double bye, so it's not like there's a big regular season difference between.
Well, they also beat Alabama to end the regular season, so they've had a track record of beating a higher ranked team. 7 does look awfully low for a team that went to its conference tournament. Now they did get beat by a convincing margin, but I think that justifies lowering them a seed to something low like 7 when you got Kentucky at 6 that didn't even make the championship game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it didn't even play for the A&M to go to the championship game. But Anyway, but they draw Penn State. I mean, you never know. That could be an interesting matchup right there with Penn State. Will Colgate push Texas? Well, you never know. It's 15-12, but everything else up top just looks like it's pretty well.
I think it's could be. I think this is what interests me because you're looking at UT. They did win the SEC tournament, but they've had some they've had some rough losses. And then you look at Xavier, you know, we talked about with Houston, conferences like that don't necessarily get the same respect. Then you got Iowa State, who's made some noise lately and do have a really good defense, and then A&M, who seems like very, very good 7 seed. So this could be a lot of upsets here.
Could be. And good night, Snorta Poopas. The brisket of Helen was too much for this time of night. The bear needs to settle in their bed for some quality snooze time. Take care, every human, and keep dribbling. Absolutely, Snorta Poopas. Thanks for coming by. Appreciate you.
For coming by.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is pretty a pedestrian thing bracket. So where we got with the mid? So now we have the West, right?
Yes.
Yes. All right.
There's Kansas, the number 1 seed.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And this is another. I think it gets a little interesting. You've got a lot of the kind of secondary conferences in here. You do have Arkansas and Illinois. You got St. Mary's at number 5 and UConn at number 4.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything to comment on that? I don't have much to say on this part.
Really not much. I think really the matchup I find it could go either way. As hard as it's good for this is the 8-9 matchup. The 8-9 matchup should be balanced, and you don't know which way. It depends on which Pigs team shows up against Illinois. And it could be a good game, or it could be a blowout one way or the other. VCU St. Mary's, that could be interesting since St. Mary's got handled by Gonzaga pretty easily in the conference tournament.
Yeah, and
the only comment I have about Howard is that they had one hell of a conference tournament against Norfolk State. Norfolk State had the lead at the end. All they had to do was inbound the ball and get fouled and shoot free throws. The press was on. The runner, Norfolk State players coming back for the ball, then cuts to the middle of the paint, and the inbounder threw it out past him where thought he was going instead of where he was going. So Howard got the ball, made the winning shot with like 2 seconds left.
That's great.
So, or about 5-6 seconds left, and then of course Norfolk ran the ball up to half court, timeout, and then they missed the last shot. So that was one of the best conference championships that I saw the end of. So, but hey, shout out! I believe it's the MEAC, but great tournament, but. Kansas, they might have gotten beat by Texas, but no, we'll see. They're number 1 seed for a reason. So that's all I got up here.
All right. We got the number 2, that TCU. So 2 Big 12 teams facing the first 4. I believe this one is Arizona State and Nevada. That's right. We got Gonzaga here. So Gonzaga they won't meet for a while. They wouldn't meet until the Elite 8. But you got both the what conference is that? West Coast Conference. You got Gonzaga and St. Mary's both in here. And then this is the UCLA and UNC Asheville. Those are UNC teams, all 20 of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this one, Grand Canyon, I just saw them on flipping private ed commercials on TV for years. Grand Canyon University. It's like, well, whatever. But I didn't realize Northwestern had come back to basketball power. But so
they are a 7th seed. It's not like they're crazy.
That's why the Boise State could be interesting with that. really. The only game out of this bracket could be that Boise State Northwestern game. All the others, I mean, Grand Canyon looks like a very weak 14 to go against a 3 seed Gonzaga.
Right, because I was kind of thinking Gonzaga's kind of.
Grand Canyon should be a 15th or 16th seed. I would put UNC Asheville up at 14 because Asheville's had more tournament appearances and actually played some competitive games in the tournament before. Grand Canyon is a complete unknown.
I think, Gonzaga as a number 3, I think is a little high. I guess they have the ranking for it. But I would have picked them as kind of an upset alert, but I don't know if Grand Canyon is really good enough to challenge that.
Yep. All right. Well, that is those are the brackets overall.
Yeah.
Since we kind of teased it a little bit, let me share a screen real quick with this, because let me take this down, because we talked before the show about, and we talked to some during this stream about teams that could get cut out and stuff. Well, what team did we not see from the Southeastern Conference? We did not see Vanderbilt. We did
Yeah.
not see Vanderbilt. And this is where the NIT matchups, and we can see that Yale is playing at Vanderbilt. The NIT works in a way where the higher seeds play at home, and they travel site to site based on where you're seated.
Yeah, I think there's something to do with. I was just reading up on this because I've only paid attention to NIT 1 year when Baylor was in it.
Right.
They lost in heartbreaking fashion, but what was it? Oh, I think every regular season champion who doesn't make it to the NCAA tournament gets an automatic bid in the NIT.
Right. That's the rule going forward, for now. So if the regular season champion also wins conference championship, they're not guaranteed an NIT bid. But as you can see, the four number one seeds are Oklahoma State, Rutgers, Clemson, and Oregon. So
Oklahoma State getting there, I think makes sense. Vanderbilt, I'm kind of shocked that they didn't get in, just because they had a good regular season. And
hey, Brian. And Santa Clara, Sam Houston. Yeah,
you're looking at every team that was in the SEC quarterfinals made it in, including one team that didn't even make it to the quarterfinals, and then Vanderbilt makes it to the semifinals and doesn't even get.
Yeah,
I kind of think that's a little silly, but
considering they beat that one team twice.
Yeah, so, if I was a betting person, which I'm not, I'm not betting. I'm not a person. I'm Pokemon. But I feel like Vanderbilt would be a more competitive matchup in the tournament than Auburn right now.
I do agree with you, because they beat people. They beat teams down. Yeah, I mean, why do you? That's the debate. That's what makes this so powerful and makes it so dramatic every year. You get those debates that are going on. You make every case for why you have a 20-win Vanderbilt team over a 20-win Auburn team. Mm-hmm. So, and my matchup of note in this is UCF at Florida. God, we got to play the Knights again. But either way, I don't know. Florida, basketball's meh. We need to bring Billy Donovan back. But hey, Brian, good for you with Sam Houston and Santa Clara. That could be a cool game. So,
yeah, the NIT has some crazy results, so it could be very interesting.
Absolutely, it does. It's not bad basketball either. So, all right, well, let's get back to the NIT and we'll wrap it up with our picks. Woopah.
Yeah,
so we're going to start with the first four. Okay, where do we start?
So we start with the 16. Oh, geez, sorry. Starting with the 16 seeds, we can go through this kind of quickly because a lot of these, I guess, are kind of dartboards. Dadman picked Texas A&M, the other Texas A&M. And I'm picking SEMO. They're a local college, about an hour or two south. So I figured, hey, I got to pick them.
All right.
This is their first tournament appearance since 2003, I think. So maybe it's 2000. It's been a while. So.
Yeah, that's. I had to go with the Texas team. Why? Because I don't know. I like the name Corpus Christi.
They got some cool colors.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of like that. Kind of like that Chanticleer from that one Carolina school, Coastal Carolina, in a way.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I like their little field that they got there for football too.
All right, so
the next one you picked Farley Dickinson to win. Mm-hmm. I'm again going against you. I'm picking Texas Southern. So.
Oh man, well, Farley Dickinson's appeared before and had more. I think won some games, but Texas Southern.
I think they're the more known team. I went with Texas Southern because, first of all, they're on they've been in the first four of the last 2 years, and they've won both of them. And also, Farley Dickinson didn't win their conference tournament. They made it in because whoever else was in that tournament in the finals wasn't eligible.
Right.
They ended up losing by 2 actually. So I'm like, hey, you can't even win your tournament. Get out of here.
Well, unlike the Atlantic Sun last year, I don't understand how conferences have different rules because at least they got that. Remember what I told you about the Atlantic Sun last year, where they had nobody because whatever the rule was, the team that won it was ineligible, and they didn't get to replace their champion. So,
yeah, I'm wondering if that led to some change. They changed the rules after that, maybe.
So
we've got
all right.
Moving to the 2-11 seeds, we've got Midwest Mississippi State, the SEC team here, and Pitt. Dadman picked Pitt, and we actually agreed on this one, so we both picked Pitt. Obviously, I think Dadman talked about it, and this is kind of my thought too. Pitt was leading the ACC at the time. Mississippi State's never really been a top threat in their conference. I think we were looking at the SEC and ACC this year in basketball, pretty similar. So I feel like Pitt has the edge there a bit. Got anything to add there, Dadman?
Nope, I think you hit it right on the head. Mississippi State was kind of impressive, but that fight against Florida just, Pitt's going to have too much for them, I believe.
Yep, and so getting to the last one, Arizona State and Nevada. I don't know if you're supposed to say Nevada or Nevada. I never know.
Whatever you feel like saying.
We picked Nevada.
Kind of like Missouri. So many different, or Miami. There's so many different pronunciations.
Yeah, so we were split again. You picked Nevada. I picked Arizona State.
Oh wow!
So we're there could be some big differences here.
All right, that should make things interesting then.
Yeah. So I kind of went with Arizona State just because they had that big win against Arizona late in the season. I admittedly don't know much about Nevada, so I could be wrong. I just knew Arizona State on the up and up. So, yeah, that's the first 4. Not much to that. We're in the South now.
Yay.
So this is the first side of the South predictions. We can go through this first one quick, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Dadman picking Alabama. I'm picking Alabama. It'd be a shock if they didn't win. The teams that are in that play-in are not great. So, and the next one for the 8 and 9 seed, Dadman's picking Maryland.
Yay!
And I'm agreeing. I'm picking Maryland as well.
So West Virginia struggles.
Yeah, I think they were. I don't think they were great as a Big 12 aficionado. They weren't that great. I kind of think, I guess they were the 7th Big 12 team in. The 6 teams above them are all pretty good. West Virginia, I don't think they really belong to the person. But that's just me. Then go 5 and 12. And let's see, Dadman goes Charleston. So the first upset on the board here. Why would you choose Charleston here?
I don't trust San Diego State at a 5 seed from the conference, and a lot of the reasons that you illustrated earlier. I just think that they're seated higher than they should be. Just when you look at Kentucky and other teams that are, a Missouri team, I just don't think they're properly seated there. And I think Charleston got in, I think, 3 losses this year, and the teams that the smaller conferences, a lot of that size differential either does not exist anymore or they've got talented players that compensate size differentials now. It's not like it was 20 years ago. So that's why I went with Charleston.
So small ball's come a long way. A lot more teams can do it, but also something to be said. I don't know how San Diego State is. I think they've got a lot of veteran players too. But some of these younger conference guys, you get a good coach in there, get a good freshman class, and spend 4 years developing on them. You'll get results. And I'll tell you what, Dadman, I'm agreeing with you. I picked Charleston as well. So
Okay.
so far, not very controversial here.
I know. We're being boring. We made it up in that first four. So
Yeah.
in the last bracket. So okay. So Virginia Furman. I think that's pretty easy too.
So I know you were talking bad about Virginia.
Yeah.
But it looks like you picked them to win here.
I just don't see Furman. I mean, there's no reason to go with Furman, but you know what? I'm happy to be wrong. So, because I tell you, I love the upsets to make it more dramatic, to make it a lot more fun to watch and stuff.
Yeah. So I picked Virginia as well. So we'll go now. That's our predictions for the first round. Now we're looking for the second round we predicted. South for Alabama versus Maryland, what we both picked. I picked, Dadman picked Alabama, and I guess I spoiled it. I picked Alabama as well.
Yeah.
I think this is a pretty weak. It's a weak side of the bracket. The South, I think, is the weakest one, I'd say. So Alabama here, I think, in theory, should have an easy walk to the Final Four. We'll see. Anything can happen. And then we move down to the other second round here. Dadman picks Charleston, so another upset. First beating San Diego State and then predicting them to beat Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty big there. Any reason? I know you talked a little bit about what you're not huge on Virginia about, but
mostly that I don't trust Virginia. They've had their moments up and down again this season, and I just, Charleston seemed again with only three losses. I know that that's not. I know that it's not necessarily in of itself the only thing you should look at, but I do think in a small conference like that, and I think Charleston's also had a decent record overall. So it just at least that's what I think. But hey.
Yeah, and you know what? Again, I thought the same way. So we picked all the same here on this part of the bracket, which is kind of funny.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, just a lot of what you said. Virginia's been up and down. They did beat Baylor, but they've lost to some teams that they really shouldn't have. I don't think we're counting them out totally, but Virginia's just so streaky. If you're gonna predict an upset, this kind of seems like the place to do it. Charleston,
you're looking
maybe
closer.
Not the best.
You're looking closer at Charleston. They're 31-3. Looking at a lot of the games, they scored 80+ points or high 70s. Just trying to look and see at their schedule throughout the year. They just let's see.
They haven't played a ton of great teams.
No, but they've played enough. I think
they've beat who they have.
They beat Virginia Tech in a close game. They beat Colorado State. Not that those are powerhouses. They did lose pretty big at North Carolina, but then again, that was at North Carolina during the early part of the season. So, you can't. I just don't trust Virginia, and I don't think you credit them. I mean, they may have a good record. They may have beaten some of the bigger conference teams, but they are a team that's had a history of underperforming in the NCAA tournament. And that's what I see would happen. That's why I see this game happening again. I think with Charleston being so hot, having won the conference title tournament, having won almost about 10 games in a row, I think that a team gets hot this time of year. That's what you want. I mean, they won. That was in spite of the competition. They won 84-67, 93-61, 83-70, 99-63, 88-66, 83-75, 92-52, and then the conference tournament they won 74-52, 77-72, a little closer, and 63-58. So, I mean, they've been beating people pretty good this year and on the road.
Yeah.
Let's see this from Brian's comment. Furman had a great season last year and has had a school record for wins this year and are a tough matchup. So, I think it'll be a coin flip for that. Okay, good, Brian. I mean, hey, would I love to see Virginia lose in the first round? Dang straight, because I think it makes for better drama, better basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah. and we take the same reason with Charleston. Maybe it'll beat them. Maybe the some reasons Furman might win in that game, that sense. So
yeah, and I think that's one thing you did not necessarily go with the second round, go with the first round. People might say, "Oh, Charleston doesn't play good competition." Charleston played one game against the AP Top 25. San Diego played two, and they lost both of them. Charleston lost the one. San Diego lost both. So when you're looking at it, San Diego might be a higher seed, but they've got about the same level of quality of competition. The difference is Charleston's been beating their people by more and more often. So I feel fairly safe picking them in the first round at the very least. The second round may be a little bit of a risk, but
we'll give them and give Furman credit. Now, I thank you for pointing stuff out, Brian, too. As Furman lost early in the year by 5 to Penn State. It was a home game. They lost by 5 to Penn State. They lost by 5 to Old Dominion. They beat South Carolina, which is a very bad SEC team, but still, you beat a bigger conference team, 79-60. And then they got into conference play. I think after that, pretty much, that's where they go. They had won. They won 3 in a row in the conference, so they're on a 6-game winning streak. They lost 1, but they had also won about eight games before that in a row before that loss. So Furman is a team that could be. You have this. Maybe we'll see if Furman upset Virginia.
And I think it's worth noting that as well. And this is similar to Charleston as well. But if you see Furman, they may be losing those games. But first of all, close losses, and second of all, it shows that they're scheduling tough teams. They're not just saying, okay, how can I pad my preseason schedule going into the conference tournament? They're trying to play good teams. And I think that helps you going into the tournament. And you've seen, maybe they haven't seen Virginia, but they've seen some of the more of these tougher conference teams.
But I tell you, I do agree. I like Furman as an underdog potentially. Brian, I always like the underdogs. So, especially when Virginia, it's so good. They'll never live. Even though they won a national title, they still will never lose that Baltimore County game down to me. But they still had the same stoic offense and the same rate at pace of play. So
they've underperformed them, and is it Georgetown? I feel like. I think Georgetown won one here recently too, but it seemed like those two teams constantly performed.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're done with the South, the top bracket of the South. Let's go into the South, the bottom half of the South.
So we've got Creighton and NC State. Dadman's picking Creighton, and I picked Creighton too.
Yeah.
If no one else fails, they've got the cooler logo. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Creighton Blue Jays. I went this one. I went higher seed. I mean, again, an 11 seed coming in, didn't do much in their conference tournament. It's they're just waiting to get beat.
Yeah, I'll say and you'll see this is kind of a trend for me. I just don't think highly of this year's ACC. Not all the time. Usually the ACC has some good teams. This time, I just don't know if anyone. A lot of them have a middling record because they beat up on each other. It's like I don't know if I trust any one of these teams to really, genuinely be good. So I think Creighton has a much better chance of winning this one. Let's see. Next, we got 3 seed. I Baylor Bears. Dadman picked Baylor, and I picked Baylor too. So there we go.
Yep.
UC Santa Barbara. I don't know anything about them. I looked up their stats. They don't look like a good school. So I think that's an easy one. Here's maybe an interesting one. Missouri and Utah State, both kind of hot teams right now.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's disappointing that they're matched against each other.
Yeah, I think both of these could have been maybe some threats to go. I think this would probably be the most interesting match in the South. And you've got Missouri. Winning, and I picked them too.
Yeah.
I think they're a little underrated just because, and they are ranked now, but they have a really good record. I think a lot of people have underrated them just because when you look at it, they kind of have a tendency to win close games and lose in blowouts. I think that's probably got people looking down on them. But, after a while, I think you got to take into account, they've beat Tennessee twice. They've We got blown out by Alabama the first time, but looked a lot better against them last time. They've started to consistently beat some solid teams. A lot of the teams that are ranked above them in the SEC, they have a winning record, one or split records with. So I do think they're maybe a little bit low for a 7 seed, even though 7 is not a bad ranking, but I think they're pretty good.
Yep.
And so with this last one, we got picking Arizona.
Yeah.
I'm picking Arizona.
I want to go upset here. I want to go upset here, but I would not have a reason, a basis for doing it in this case. So,
yeah, Princeton. I know they weren't like the top regular season winner, so I think I am not 100% sold on them being able to upset. Even though, yeah, I'd love to throw an upset there too.
Well, let me say hello real quick to Pacific 414. Hey, welcome.
Hey.
Welcome. Glad to have you here. Sit back and enjoy some basketball with us. We're just now going through the bottom half of the South brackets. We've got 3 more brackets with our predictions, and glad to see you here tonight. Appreciate you being here, Pacific 414. All righty. Absolutely. And that gives me a chance to remind everybody, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Hopefully you like the content. Check us out when you can with all the different things that we have beyond football, basketball, and all kinds of stuff, and beyond Fortnite. So, and Woopah, these graphics are really, really impressive. You've done a great job on these tonight. Thank you so much for your attention to detail with these. So what do we see going in the matchups that will lead to the Sweet 16? What about these matchups? Creighton and Baylor. How do you see it?
Yeah, so I'd like to point out that up until this point, me and Dadman have picked the same thing for everyone in the South Conference.
Yay! I don't like that. It gets boring,
I know. Dadman picks Baylor, and I actually disagree. I'm taking Creighton here. So I know I'm going against my.
Why are you going to get your guys?
I think a lot of it just has to do with momentum. I know Baylor has lost, 4 of the last 6, and sure, it's been against good teams, but those good teams are all you face in March Madness usually, besides maybe the first round. And also their best player, Keontae George, he did get injured. He's played in the last 2 games, but he hasn't necessarily looked the same. I think if something is wrong with him, that's going to be tough to fill in for that production. So I am picking Creighton here to upset my Baylor Bears. I'd love to be wrong. I'm just not sure. With the late season skid, momentum does matter.
Yep.
So in this last second round matchup.
I know. I hate when that happens, when you doubt your own guys. It's crazy.
Oh yeah.
It's never a good feeling, but I understand it. It's
not good. We've been a little shaky, and I think we're better than football at the very least. But
there you go.
A little too shaky.
Well, at least your school's not bad in both, and you don't know which one's better or worse. So hey,
yeah,
Gators. So anyway, all right. Our last matchup in this bracket, Missouri and Arizona.
You picked Missouri, and I keep stumbling on my words. I picked Missouri.
Just that one difference. Hey.
So there we go. I think that's the first round. Not picking many upsets, but second round we've got. I guess you picked 2 upsets. I picked 3 upsets in the second round. So in the South bracket, it'll be interesting if it goes through either of these. And I think we all, we picked all the same, but that one Baylor Creighton matchup. So that's going to be. I guess that's not going to be much difference for us.
Well, we got a long ways to go.
I promise you, it's not that way all the way around.
Oh my gosh! And I don't know what Woopah picked. Folks, Woopah is revealing his to me for the first time now. He had mine for the graphics, so I'm curious to see where we're going from this. And we've got 7 watching, folks. Hey, thank y'all for being here. Yes. And make sure you smash that like button for, especially Woopah's graphics here. This is wonderful tonight. You've done it. I said it again. Wonderful graphics here, Woopah.
Oh, thank you.
All righty. Let's move to the next region.
Yeah,
What do we have?
We've got the East here.
No, before you get started, B from O's coming in. Hey, B from O. Hey, how are you tonight? Welcome in. We're now moving into the East just in time for our predictions. So, all righty. All right, Woopah, go ahead.
So let's get the first one again. And first seed, 16th seed. You got Purdue, I got Purdue. Nothing very much to say here. Oops. We get to the second round, the 8 and 9 seed, Memphis versus Florida Atlantic. Dadman's taking the Owls here. You have a pretty cool logo. But I'm going to take the Tigers here. I know the American Athletic Conference isn't great, but Memphis winning that tournament, I think that gives them the edge personally for me.
Yeah.
Penny
Houston, Hardaway's still the coach, isn't he?
I don't. I'll be honest with you. I don't remember coaches very well. And now, Coach K's gone, so it's even harder for me to remember.
I know all the coaches I grew up with is, they're gone. I mean, Izzo at Michigan State.
Yeah, he's still in.
He's there. So it's they're all going. They're dying off or retiring. It says, so I'm just going to check. I think it's still. Let's see. Let me see real quick. Penny Hardaway is still the head coach, the former NBA player. Okay. The reason why I know that is because I listened to Sports Animal out of Knoxville, Tennessee, and there was a lot of bad blood between the Tennessee schools and Memphis. So, yeah, I think it's centered around some recruiting and some words and stuff like that. So it's, but Penny Hardaway's still there. So hey, good for them. 8 seed Memphis. Okay. All right. Sorry for that sidetrack, Woopah.
Oh, no worries. So 5 and 12 seed, Duke and Oral Roberts. Dadman's picking the upset. He's going Oral Roberts. The Golden Eagles. That's hard to read. I think that text clashes with the background. But I'm not quite as optimistic. I'm picking Duke. I think with them riding in hot, they'll probably have the edge here.
That's a good pick. That's the smart pick. All right. So then we get the Tennessee Louisiana Lafayette matchup.
Yep. And Dadman picked Tennessee. I picked Tennessee. I had to squish the logo a little bit. But at the end of the day, I don't know much about Louisiana Lafayette. Looking at their stats, they didn't look too terribly impressive. I think Tennessee has that one.
But that's always the danger zone with a team like this in this 13-4. Louisiana just has to get hot, and if Tennessee comes in like they've done a lot this year and just waggle around and not play hard and very laid back, nonchalant, they could get bitten. I mean, that's why it's March Madness.
Yeah.
Oh God, better than Penny Hardaway. LOL. Gosh, I forgot about that. All righty, so we move to the round of 32. So what do we have here? Purdue and the next round. Purdue and we divided. So where do we go from there?
So you picked Purdue over Florida Atlantic. I picked Purdue over Memphis. I don't know if either of these teams really have what it takes to beat Purdue. I wouldn't be totally surprised, but I also wouldn't put my money on it. So
agreed.
Then the second round, Dadman has the Cinderella story continuing. Oral Roberts making it back to the Sweet 16 for the second time in 3 years here. So
hey, all right, woo, optimist. Well, because I don't trust this Tennessee team. I mean, I think Tennessee loses in this round no matter Duke or Oral Roberts because the Tennessee team has shown a lot of vulnerability this year. Key injuries down the stretch. Just, they had higher hopes, but the season's just coming crashing down. Still a good season overall. I'd take it as a Florida Gator fan, but, just you have bigger hope,
I think you take both Tennessee seasons as a Gator fan.
Yeah, dang straight. I'd take Tennessee's head football coach for sure. I'd actually take both head coaches in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I didn't opinionate on the coaches, did I? I've got family members pissed at me because I keep trashing the Gator football coach. And not to go too far on a side story is because I don't understand why the NFL teams are going crazy about Richardson as a first round draft pick. Now that he's going to the NFL, I feel more open to say things. I mean, his Hail Marys ended up 25 rows into the stands. He'd go off the upright. It was ridiculous. But then he'd have a great game like in Tennessee and stuff. But then the head coach, through time management, bad decisions, instituting his locker room crap, and then half the team leaving. It's like, then he loses transfers. He can't get a recruit in. I don't know. Then they bring in a big broken down Big 10 quarterback from Wisconsin. That's a big insult to me as a Gator fan because I've made a living off of mocking Wisconsin quarterbacks. Well, them and Iowa quarterbacks. But sorry, I digress. Woopah. Sorry for the rampage.
Oh, you're fine. It's funny.
So hey, all right. So either way, I thought Tennessee would lose this ring.
So I actually did pick Tennessee. Funny enough.
Wow.
I think, and I guess I could definitely see if Oral Roberts beats Duke. I don't think it's unlikely. I just personally I have Lee and Duke. Duke is hot, so maybe I'm being too hard on them. But I'm just thinking, well, they don't have Coach K anymore, and this team really overall has not been. Like, I think Tennessee is certainly the more talented team. I think it's tough, but I just think Duke – I just don't think Duke is as good as they normally are this year. They're 5th seed. Right. I think they're closer to a 7th seed personally. So,
gotcha. Well, again, we talk about Missouri we're talking about Missouri getting slided down to 7, instead of a 5.
Yeah.
So.
I think – I agree with everything you said about Tennessee. It is hard. They've had a lot of losses that should have been wins. Maybe that continues here. But I am picking them to win one. I think they are just the more talented team in this side of things.
Yep. All righty. So now we'll go to the bottom half of the East bracket, starting with Kentucky and Providence.
Kentucky and Providence. Dadman's going the SEC team. I picked them as well. I think Providence, they're not in a great division, and then couple that with how bad they've been lately. Kentucky hasn't been great themselves, but I just don't think Providence has a shot.
No. They had a season that kind of went downhill quickly in the back half. So, and you can see it reflected in that 11th seed.
Yeah, for sure. And for the next one, the 3 and 14, Damian's got the Kansas State Wildcats, and I've got them as well. I think they're a pretty good team. They've struggled. Well, I don't want to say they struggled a bit because they've won some big games, but they've also lost some games they should have won. So they're a bit hard to place, but I think they're definitely better than Montana State. We've got the battle of the Greek mythology. Michigan State for USC. I think that's cool. I specifically changed which logo I got for USC when I saw that.
That is awesome.
Dadman's going with the Big Ten over here, Michigan State, and I picked them as well. We all know that the Spartans are better than the Trojans. The Trojans lost, Sparta won. I think that says it all.
No, I mean they fell for the Trojan. I don't know. The Trojan horse. Yeah, I'll take Spartans any day over the men of Troy. I thought USC has a cool theme song, a fight song.
Oh.
That's something I would love to have a stream about, where you can play schools' fight songs or rank them or do something about it. But all the damn copyright stuff and all that.
Oh yeah, I'll say Baylor's fight song's not very fun.
I know.
But I like our at all the games, my arm always got tired because whenever we're on defense, you hold your hand up in the air, make a bear claw, and you go ah. When they hike the ball, you say "Sick 'em Bears." That was a lot of fun, but our fight song not very fun.
Okay. I don't know. I don't like raising my hands that much. So too much
it gets tiresome.
Work. Yeah.
My right arm hurts because I was at the XFL game, which we'll stream about later.
Yep.
But I was waving the flag so much. Not the flag, the little rally towel they gave every time.
Yeah. Well, good.
Especially
I'm
when
glad
we
you
were.
got the rally towel. I thought they ran out of them. So.
Oh, no, they did, and
Yeah.
thankfully, we I think we used the power of guilt a bit because we did sell 2 of the tickets that we had. The couple next to us had 2 towels. We were like, oh, we were asking, oh, where'd you get those towels? Oh man, we didn't get them even though we got here. We got there 45 minutes early. It's not like we strolled in late. I think 45 minutes you'd get a rally towel. No, but they gave us one of ours. We're like, yes. So victory achieved there.
Yes, absolutely. All right,
But,
Marquette, Vermont. This is a game that I kind of toyed with though at first though, because the Catamounts have had. I believe they're the Catamounts, but I know one year that they pulled an upset in the first round. I think as a 15 seed. Yeah, it's just, but I don't know. It's hard to. Marquette does not seem to be one of the struggling 2 seeds coming in. So
no, I agree because Vermont, as far as kind of the minor conferences go, has a pretty good history.
Mm-hmm.
But I picked Marquette as well because they, unlike some of the other teams that you look at on here, like San Diego State or Houston or like Gonzaga and St. Mary's.
Mm-hmm.
Marquette's been playing some big teams, and they beat Baylor, I think, by 20. They kicked our butts.
Yep.
So they're not, they are a minor conference, but they're not. They've been playing the good competition to back it up.
Yep. All righty. So now we got through the first. Well, technically, now known as the second round. We go to the third round. Kentucky. Battle of the Cats, the Wildcats specifically, Kentucky, Kansas State, and we've got
and we'll look at it. Me and Dadman split on conference lines.
Exactly, conference loyalties. I could see Kansas State winning this game. I really could, but Kentucky's. With Calipari is a good tournament team, and a lot of times you want to write them off and expect them to lose, but they don't. They tend to win, and like you said, with Kansas State, bowing out like it did, it just Kentucky bowed out. Though it's a battle of this is one of those 6-3 games that you just don't know which one's going to win. It's another game that could be a blowout one way or the other, or it could be a close game. These 2 teams are just I think they're evenly matched, which says a lot considering Kentucky supposedly has all the first round draft picks every year, they say, for their classes. But,
I think
see what it's got them in terms of national championships. So
I think it's definitely closer than a lot of these matchups. I think it'll be a good matchup, assuming it does happen. I give the edge to Kansas State just because they've played kind of those top teams, Kansas, Texas, and Baylor. They've played them pretty well. They did obviously come off a kind of a surprise blowout loss to TCU, but before that, they've been doing pretty well. So I'm kind of giving them the edge here.
That's awesome. All right. So then our last matchup in the East is Michigan State, Marquette, and we are I'm sticking with the higher seed this time. I do think Tom Izzo is probably going to retire very soon. I know a Michigan State Spartan fan that thinks he probably should retire or wouldn't be against it. So, it's running the same type of offense 20 years later, things like that. They're not what they used to be, but hey, at least they're still a respectable program and make the tournament every year. So, how do you see this one?
Yeah, I went the same way. I'm picking Marquette, kind of for the same reasons I said before. They're not just your normal mid-conference team. They've played a lot of good teams, and they've shown that they belong.
Yep.
So.
All righty. Well, that's the East, folks. Hey, and we'll advance these next week based on actual results. Let me post it. Yes, follow me on Twitter for stream updates. Yes, Dadman Walking 55. That's the way to get latest on stream updates, and especially when I do an impromptu Fortnite stream. You never know when it happens at a moment's notice. So, all right. And by the way, we've got 9 people watching. It's funny. It's so many times it's like it grows as the night goes on. It's like, should I stop? Do I ever stop? it's kind of like, God, do I need to do another 24-hour stream? I'm up for it. I tell you, I actually did pretty good with that one. People are like, how'd you do? And all, I'm like, I'm fine. I did great with it. Like, I was ready to keep going that day. But thank you. Make sure you follow us over on the Twitch side, and make sure you like the video over here on the YouTube side and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Now we got two more brackets, two more regions. The Midwest, the top half.
Halfway there.
Where do we go? Woopah?
So the Norse, we've got you picking
Yeah.
Houston. I'm picking Houston too. It's not too surprising. I do think that they're a legitimately good basketball team, but we'll see. But even if they're not, I don't think the Norse are going to be the ones to knock them off.
Nope.
Excuse me.
They're not in Virginia, and the Norse are not Baltimore County. So go ahead.
Yeah. And we've got Iowa and Auburn here.
A game I did not want to pick. I wish it was like the only thing that could have been worse is Iowa Kentucky football. Wait, that did happen. Sorry.
That did happen. And that was also an awful game. But
Horrible.
2 defensive touchdowns, only 1 offensive touchdown, something like 20 punts. Holy cow. If you need to take a nap, turn that on in the background.
Mm-hmm.
But Dadman picked Iowa. And why did you go Iowa here?
Lack of trust in Auburn, bowing out so quickly in the first matchup in the SEC tournament. That really had a lot to do with it. They've been a very pedestrian team. A lot of disappointment. Bruce Pearl still there. They had some good seasons previously, and just there were more expectations out of them. They didn't deliver in the conference tournament, and I just don't see them getting hot. Playing Iowa. I mean, just. I look at them as a one-and-done team. And, again, a team that you should question whether they should be there, and a Vanderbilt team that beat Kentucky a couple times in the last 2 weeks, advanced to the semifinals of the SEC tournament that got left out. So a little negativity towards Auburn.
No, I agree with everything you're saying, but I did pick Auburn still. I think this could be one of those low-scoring games, not because of good defense, because of bad offense.
When Auburn was good, they scored points. That's another thing.
I don't know much about Iowa basketball. All I know is historical stuff I go off of, and I know it's not necessarily fair, but I remember having 2 people at my school. One was a big Nebraska fan, and one was a big Iowa fan, and they were always disappointed because they always choked when it came time for it.
Oh, yeah.
And I kind of stick with that with Iowa. I just always think, Iowa, expected to win. That's not going to happen.
Well, in Auburn is when Bruce Pearl's teams are scoring points, they're good. When they're not scoring points, they're not very good, and they're back in the not very good syndrome right now. So, but
yeah,
you never know. Maybe Iowa will outscore him. You never know. But
so then we got
Go ahead.
No,
sorry. Oh no, go ahead. I didn't
have much to say. I just say I think that's going to be a crappy match, basically.
Take your well. You don't even need no dose for that one. Just turn it on, put your feet up. You hope that's a Sunday afternoon after. I don't know, that'd be I guess that's a Friday game, Thursday-Friday game. Get home from work early, have your dinner, and go to sleep. Take a nap, post-work nap. How about that?
Yep.
So then we move it to the better matchups, Miami and Drake.
Miami and Drake. We talk about the 5-12 matchups being big upsets. Dadman's taking the 5, though.
Yep.
And I'm taking the 5 as well. I
Absolutely.
do think Drake is good, but I think Miami, as far as ACC goes, I'm not thrilled with the ACC, but I think they're a pretty good team.
Yeah. You know who That must have double checking something, but I think Miami. You got to respect them for what they've done in the SEC and the ACC. Fight to a tough conference, even though it's a down conference this year. They oh god, they persevered through the ACC. I'm laughing because you know who their head coach is, don't you?
Who?
You remember years ago when George Mason made the run when the Gators were dominant back to backs?
Yeah.
George Mason, Jim Larinaga was the head coach for George Mason back then.
Oh, he made to Miami.
He went to Miami and has been there since 2011.
Oh wow.
So yeah. So I think he's a good coach. I think he's a good coach. I think if the talent will follow their coaching, I mean, Miami could be poised to make some noise, in the tournament.
Yeah. I think it's interesting.
Not that I say that they will, or not that I predict what's happening in the next round yet, but they have that potential.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think out of the ACC teams, they're probably one of the few that actually met expectations. So you look at Duke,
and yet
UNC.
they still only ended up at a 5 seed.
Yeah.
When would you have ever thought the ACC would have their champions and all at a 5th seed?
Right.
Normally, an ACC champion would be a 1 or no worse than a 2 seed, maybe 3.
It shows how much they've kind of fallen off this year. I mean, I doubt it'll be permanent, but just this year. And I kind of agree with them. And I think a lot of that just comes down to, Coach K. Obviously, he was so well guarded for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also it give the other conferences credit. It shows too that the other conferences have upped their recruiting, upped their games, have gotten better to where there's not the difference between ACC and there are these mid-major conferences now.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it goes to talk about. And hey, I didn't rank these guys, so maybe I don't have room to talk. But sometimes I think the people who do rankings get a little lazy because look, UNC not on here at all. We didn't talk about that. They didn't make it, and they were preseason number 1. So they're the first ever preseason number 1 who doesn't even make the tournament. It's just crazy. But I just think it shows. Yeah, UNC down, major down year. Duke trying to move on from Coach K. Just kind of who else is there? I mean, you got Virginia. They've always been kind of spotty. You got who else is the powerhouses there? I'm trying to remember. I should remember. I don't know. I'm blanking on it.
North Carolina, Syracuse.
Syracuse, they're having a down year.
Boeheim retired after almost 50 seasons. It's just
right.
And that's another old coach that's gone now.
And I think that's probably, I'm guaranteeing with how old he was and how he was doing, that's probably affected this year's play. So I think you're looking at a lot of turmoil there. Who's the coach at North Carolina?
Hubert Davis,
okay.
the former player.
I was trying to remember that. When did he take over? Do you know? Sorry.
No problem. No, you go ahead. You keep going for your picks. I'll look it up real quick. Oh, shoot.
Okay.
Did something wrong. Yeah, I'll look it up, but go ahead.
All right. So we got Indiana versus Kent State here. Dadman picked Indiana.
Woo!
I also picked Indiana. Oh. And, yep, so we're agreeing on 3 of the 4 here. Indiana has had some rough goes of it lately. Obviously, they haven't been the same team that they used to be, the 90s, 80s?
Yeah.
But
they're having a really, really good year. Hey, but one other note, can I go back to North Carolina real quick?
Yeah.
Your comment was Hubert Davis took over, it looks like in 2021. But this year, North Carolina, the rumor was, would they make the tournament in the NCAAs? And they didn't. But apparently they turned down the NIT bid. Oh,
yeah. They turned it down, which I kind of get why they do it. At the same time, I'm like, come on, guys. I think it's more fun if you're just, hey.
Yeah. So he took over in 2021, it looks like, for Roy Williams.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was thinking of. I didn't want to say it because I forgot, but I thought Roy Williams had retired too, and that's kind of what I'm thinking of. You can look at you're losing Jim Boeheim, You're losing Coach K. You're losing Roy Williams. All three of those guys are legendary coaches in all of college football, let alone just the ACC. And I think that they're kind of feeling the effects of that a lot. Because especially in college, I think you probably look at those guys, they're good coaches just in general. But, the coach in college is also the GM, essentially.
Yep.
And the training staff, because he's the most important for recruiting and developing. I don't think that it's a small thing that, when all three of these guys are gone, now suddenly the ACC is not doing so well.
Yep. No surprise. Yeah, but they can't live forever, so they got to move on. So,
and hey, I don't want to be working on that all year, so I get it.
Yeah, I know. Enjoy life when you can. So,
yeah. So going on to the second round matchups, we're both split on this 8 and 9 seed. We both got Houston at the top. Dadman's picking Houston to beat Iowa. I'm picking Houston to beat Auburn. I do think Houston is an interesting upset choice. But like we've both talked about kind of extensively, both these Iowa and Auburn teams don't seem to be very good.
Yep.
I don't think they're going to be the ones to do it.
Yep. Well, I got you. So
this next matchup we've got, Dadman's picking Indiana over Miami, and I'm picking the U here.
Yeah.
So, why'd you pick Indiana over Miami?
It's an even match, but I still went Big 12, Big 10. Sorry, Big 10. The AC still not quality of competition. Indiana's had to play Purdue, Iowa, and the others in the Big 12. So Big 10. Sorry, I'm sorry. The number of teams still screwed me up with that one. So, but hey,
I picked Miami just because I think Indiana's been a little weird. So they lost in the Big Ten tournament to Penn State. They beat Michigan by 2. They got blown out by Iowa. They beat Purdue, which is a big win. But then they lost by 15 to Michigan State. They they beat Illinois by only 3. Lost to Northwestern. Beat Michigan again by 1. I'm just looking past it. There's a lot of stuff where you're like, you'd expect. They beat Purdue twice, so it's they're not bad by any means. But at the same time, they're looking at teams like either how are you losing to that team or you only beat that team by a basket. It's a little questionable. I don't know. So I don't know. They could be good, but I'm picking Miami with how they kind of did pretty well in the ACC regular season.
So, all right.
Yeah, we can move down
to the Midwest. First
Midwest, number 2. So the first one is the playing game. Iowa State versus the playing game. This has always surprised me. Dadman's picking Pitt over here.
Yay! I think Iowa State's kind of struggled a bit, and I think Pitt's. I think was the pride of along with Miami, the pride of the ACC, and it's.
Yeah, it's possible. I can see it somewhat. And we did both. Pitt was the only team we agreed on in the first 4. But I'm taking Iowa State. Maybe it's wishful thinking because they just beat Baylor twice in a row. So I'm like, well, hopefully Iowa State's just good and not Baylor being bad.
Yeah.
I do think they've got some good wins under their belt. They play some real good defense. They rebound well. So. So next we have Xavier, Kennesaw State. Both picked Xavier here.
Exactly. This was the easy one.
Yeah, I think Kennesaw State was one of the automatic bids. I think the first automatic bid they gave out, but still, I don't see them doing much. So here we have Texas A&M and Penn State. Dadman's taking Texas A&M.
Yeah.
And I'm taking Texas A&M too. We both talked about this, kind of surprised that they were as low as they were. So I kind of view them as a pretty high value seed.
Yep, it's easy. It's kind of easy, but I could still see Penn State historically taken off at the 10 spot. So, it could, especially Penn State has a good offensive night and A&M can't get to the free throw line, which is the way they like to play. You could have an upset there, but I'll still go with the defensive team with A&M here.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We have Texas here versus Colgate. No upsets from either of us. We're both taking the Big 12 tournament champions, not the regular season, the tournament champions. So I think, UT, they're a good team. Colgate, I think they've got some tournament experience, but I'm picking UT. I'm not going anything crazy here.
Yeah, no, don't go crazy at that one. But hey, all righty.
Then
we're still pretty even with all these picks. So let's see where we go from here.
So the next one, Pitt versus Xavier for Dadman. He's picking Pitt. They're going to the Sweet 16, according to him.
Yep.
So there we go. He's
been proud of the ACC.
Yep. Yeah. Following the Notre Dame's footsteps, was it last year?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, or 2 years ago, I think that was. But yeah. I'm picking an upset, but obviously I didn't pick Pitt, so I'm picking Iowa State going as well. I think Xavier is okay. I don't think they're terrible, but I'm picking Iowa State over them. And then we've got the last matchup in the Midwest, that is. Dadman's picking Texas A&M over Texas. The Texas matchup, he's picking the 7th seed over the 2 seed. Why is that, Dadman?
Because I'm going with the defense again. I think that they've shown enough propensity to play tough defense against a team like Alabama, hold them down. The question is, will they score enough? Will they generate the offense? We see that they beat Alabama in the regular season, but then lost them by a big margin in the conference tournament. So it's kind of a hit or miss. It just depends which A&M team shows up. And that might be why they're seated as low as 7th, like we talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, but that's why. They should get hot, have a good run through this bracket, and make it to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, and I'm going to agree with you there, Dadman. I picked Texas A&M as well. I think UT. I mean, I'll say, look, I picked Baylor to lose it in the second round, and Baylor beat Texas in that most recent matchup by double digits. It was their one big win they had. Texas, I don't think, is quite as good as some of the rankings say. And Texas A&M, I think, is better than a lot of the rankings say. So I'm going with Texas A&M. But yeah, we got that. We can move on to the West now. We got Kansas and Howard. Dadman doesn't have him pulling off any magic in this one, and neither do I. Kansas, I think, pretty easy one there.
Yep, absolutely.
On their quest to repeat. In the 8-9 game, got Arkansas versus Illinois. Dadman's picking Illinois, and so am I. So same on there that time for both of us. I think Illinois is a pretty good team. But, I'm not saying they're like great, but I think they've hung around there with a lot of good teams, and they've been highly ranked in the past. I just think they're a better team than Arkansas. Yep.
I agree with that. That's why I went with Illinois, because again, another SEC team that you just can't trust on. They're athletic. They're built like you would think that they should, but when they get to tournament time, free throws goes, the offense goes cold. A weaker schedule again compared to the Big 12. It's what it is.
Yeah, and I think Arkansas was one of those. I think they were 10th seed in the SEC tournament, so they kind of struggled in tournament play.
Yep, exactly. They were dispatched pretty easily in the conference tournament too. So, Yep.
So then we've got the 5 and 12 matchup. Dadman's picking St. Mary's.
Yay! Yep.
And I'm picking VCU.
Oh, okay. You did pull the trigger on that one.
I was tempted, and I did it. So
hey, all right. That's always awesome.
Yeah, I think the Atlantic 10. I don't know if it's I would say underrated because I think a lot of people have their eye on it. But I think you're looking at the West Coast Conference. I think they get a little bit more eyes on them because Gonzaga's usually a big team. But
Yeah.
I think the Atlantic 10 has a lot of depth. Obviously they're not the best conference. They don't have a lot of guys who make noise, but we've seen some Atlantic 10 teams make deep runs. We've seen the Atlantic 10 be pretty good before. I think I think VCU, even if they're not playing top ranked opponents, they're playing good opponents. It's not they don't have anyone to really stat pad against.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm picking them over St. Mary's because.
All right. Love it. That makes it so much more interesting this time of year.
Yeah. We've got UConn and Iona. I think we both picked UConn.
Yeah, there's no doubt with this one.
I think I've learned they've led me to a lot of big bracket wins. Never doubt UConn in the championship or in the tournament. So they haven't let me down yet. Oh no, they did let me down once, but most part they don't let me down. So
yep. Alrighty.
We go into semifinal or not semifinals. Goodness, I'm getting way ahead of myself.
Getting to the
second
round 16. Yeah.
Yeah.
Third round, actually. Technically third round. First four is the first.
Oh, yeah.
No. Yeah, this one's pretty easy, I think.
Dadman's going Kansas. I'm going Kansas. Yeah, I don't think, as much as I think Illinois is a solid team, I don't think they're that solid. They've had their kind of questionable losses in there.
Yep.
So I don't think they have a shot at knocking off Kansas.
Nope. So then we have a split here against UConn. So
yeah.
And I went with UConn. I think at that point the small conferences lose out at this one. So we're going to have a boring Sweet 16 here.
Yeah, kind of. It's kind of shaped. Well, no, there's some interesting ones we have.
Well, no, I meant basically Kansas. I mean, in terms of this bracket, this part of the the bracket, it's the big dogs. It's the ones you expect. The 1 and the 4 seed coming through.
Literally the dogs. Big dogs. Okay. Yeah, I'm a big fan of UConn all the time, and I think they always kind of overperform when it comes to the tournament. So I got them going. So we got that. We're going to our last section, number 2 predictions for the West. TCU versus Arizona State / Nevada. Dadman's picking TCU. I'm picking TCU. I think they're getting hot at the right time. I believe they beat Kansas. Or did they beat Texas? They beat Texas in the regular season and then whooped Kansas State in the tournament and played Texas close in the tournament as well, semifinals. So I think they're heating up at the right time. Not that it always matters, but I think in this case it's definitely an easy one to say. We have Gonzaga and Grand Canyon, kind of like we both said in the first. We both picked Gonzaga. Grand Canyon, not a great team. Probably better as a 16 seed. So I'd find it hard for them to beat Gonzaga here. So stick with the Bulldogs. So then we've got Northwestern and Boise State. I know that's something that Dadman mentioned. He's picking Boise State.
Yes, we're going for an upset soon.
Yeah, I picked Northwestern. I still think, it's close. When these 8 and 9 and 7 and 10 usually can go either way, but I think Northwestern has it here. Then probably a more easy one to predict: UCLA versus UNC Asheville. I'm both picking the Golden Bears. UCLA could have been a 1 seed and almost were, but I think did they lose the Pac-12 championship? Do you know?
I don't remember. Let me see real quick.
All right.
Let's see real quick.
Either way, I think that they're definitely good enough to be.
But either way, we know that they were long rumored to be a high seed this year. So whether they won the tournament or not.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. It was because the winner would have gotten automatic. No, Arizona won it.
Oh, wow.
Arizona won it, which got them seated where they got seated.
So they both hit the 2 seed. That's probably why UCLA is 2 seeded instead of the 1 over Purdue.
Absolutely. Well, let me say hello to Bucky's Crafting. Hello. Oh, yeah, sports ball, orange. Welcome.
Bucky.
Hey, welcome.
Bucky.
Absolutely. Make sure you hit that like button, folks, and make sure you sub if you haven't to the YouTube side. Follow us on Twitch. So, all right. Well, we've got two more games here then to pick, and we'll see how this goes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, where are we at?
West number 2. You're picking Gonzaga. I'm going to Big 12. TCU, I think. They're going a little further here.
Yeah.
I just don't think, I say this year. I say this about every year. I used to not think it, but I definitely think it now. Ever since they made it to the national championship and Baylor absolutely embarrassed them.
No, yeah.
I don't think Gonzaga's that good. If you saw a better 14 seed in the tournament, I might have picked them as a first round upset.
See, and I'm the opposite with Gonzaga. Every time I go against them, it burns me. So I'm kind of, in this case, I'm like, the heck why go against the team that keeps burning me all the time?
That's fair. I kind of just think TCU's getting hot at the right time. Even though they've been ranked most of the year, they're beating good opponents. And even when they lose, it's convincing. I think they've got I think they got a good chance at making a run.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see what happens. All right. So then it brings us to, we're split here, but I think we're probably going to agree on the winner of this next one.
Yeah. So we both picked UCLA.
Yeah. There we go.
That will be said.
No drama.
Northwestern and Boise State are both pretty good. They're good 7 and 10 seeds. I don't think they're good enough to really push and make any noise, personally.
Bucky's asking, is Michigan an option? Because I think they'll lose. No, Bucky, Michigan is in the NIT, the other tournament, kind of the runner-up tournament.
Michigan State is there. I don't know what your Michigan leanings are, which one you're pro and not against. So,
and hello to Stunning and Brave Megatron. Yay. And we've got 10 people watching us. It always happens towards the end. Lady Raving Crowds, we love you all, though. You have to go back and watch the replay to get more of the detail of what we've done. Wow. Thank you for everybody being here. Make sure you hit that like button.
Look, you want me to, since we've got the people here, you want me to do a brief overview? Because that's our last prediction.
Just go real quickly so we can wrap it up.
All right.
We're going on 3 hours now.
This is our last bracket on the West. We've got a lot of similarities, but we're both picking 2 different here. Let's scroll wheel. Here we are. We arrive at this West number 1, pretty similar as well, but we're both on this 5 and 12. We're kind of split. Nothing too crazy going on here. Midwest number 2, while we do agree a lot, Dadman's picking the 11th seed to make it to the Sweet 16 from the play-in game. That's kind of the big news here. And both of us picking the number 7 seed to upset the number 2 seed, Texas A&M being Texas. So we're predicting some big things. Midwest number 1, 2 big things. We both picked Houston, if anything else, just because the other options facing them are awful. And we have a split here. Dadman taking Indiana, who did very well in the regular season. And I'm taking Miami, who also did really well in the regular season, won the ACC. So, it'll be an interesting matchup for sure. We're split there. Go back to the East. We're almost all the same, all in agreement. Here's the Michigan State, if you're wondering, Bucky. We're split on the Wildcats here, the Kentucky Wildcats and the Kansas State Wildcats. We're split down conference lines. Dadman's taking the SEC. I'm taking the Big 12. So I'll scroll up. Here we go. this is I guess this is probably the most interesting one we've got here.
Yeah.
We do both pick Purdue here, but we're disagreeing on the 8 and 9 seed. And Dadman's picking the number 12 seed to make it all the way to the Big 12. I'm picking them to lose in the first round, but I said Big 12. I meant Sweet 16. I don't know what I'm thinking. But I'm picking Tennessee to go to the Sweet 16 myself. So that's very interesting on that side. And then we go to the South. We were both very similar. We both picked number 7 Missouri to go over number 2 Arizona. We split in the fact that Dadman's picking my Baylor Bears to go to the Sweet 16. I'm actually picking them to lose to Creighton there. Otherwise, this part we both agreed on, but it doesn't mean that there wasn't some interesting stuff here. While we did agree all on this, we both have number 12 Charleston upsetting number 5 San Diego and number 4 Virginia to make it to the Sweet 16. So that's our big news. We do agree, but I think we're at odds with the experts there at the very least. So interesting there. And I guess we had the first 4. We disagreed on 3 of the 4 here. Dadman picked Texas A&M. I'm picking my home state, South SEMO. Here, Texas Southern and Farley Dickinson, and then Arizona State and Nevada. We both split. The only one we agreed on here is Pittsburgh beating Mississippi State. So, yeah, there we go. That's a quick recap that we got there.
Yep.
I'm going to stop sharing there. Good there. See our lovely avatars.
Yay, we are back. Yes, absolutely. It's been a great 3 hours. It really was. It's like crazy. This is how it is with March Madness. There's just so much to go through and stuff like that. So it's a great time of year, lots of drama, all the other stuff that goes with it. If you don't like basketball, this is the one time of year to watch it because it's amazing. It's awesome stuff. So,
hopefully, if you don't like basketball, good chance you're going to get to be able to point and laugh at someone who loses that was supposed to win.
And one of the things that happens this time of year too is that it's the upsets. The better tournaments have more upsets in the earlier rounds. The upsets will eventually stop, but
hey, you never know. Sometimes they don't.
Yeah, but boring tournaments have no upsets. And Bucky's Crafting said, I was grocery shopping. In fact, came home with more craft supplies and food is irrelevant. And said, you better get this right. I'm going to find some place. No, we don't. We don't do gambling, though. I know you're joking. But, we no gambling problems, but we don't gamble. We don't get points and all the other stuff. That's one thing we definitely do. And then, it's always fun. It's always fun to point and laugh at people, though, I will say.
Yeah, sports gambling is not legal here, and if it was legal, I'd have to open up a Patreon. So
I would
live.
I would never do it, even though it's legal, because it's like I just lose. So anyway, well, Woopah, any closing thoughts as we wrap up?
Not really.
All right.
I'm surprised how much we agreed on stuff, but also surprised at some of the things that we did disagree on. Some of them, stuff I was like, oh, I almost put that, and some things I was like, wow, I would have never thought that. It's interested that you had more faith in my Baylor team than I did.
Absolutely.
And I'm interested. I did the full bracket. I don't want to reveal my secrets yet. And with how my brackets go, it could be totally shot by the end of it. But I think the longer the tournament goes on, since some of the more crazy picks I had, just with how deep this tournament, how kind of there's a lack of that top team. All these, and we were talking about it with the ACC, talking about that even with with the Big 12, and maybe not the SEC since Alabama's kind of unquestionable number 1, but below that kind of the parity they have this year. I feel like the difference between a number 1 seed and number 4 seed is kind of lower than ever personally. So if things go how you or I think, I think, at least my predictions for the Sweet 16 to the Final Four are going to be pretty wild, personally.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I'm excited.
Let's go wild. Wilder's the better. That's why they call it March Madness. Woopah, thank you for all that hard work on those graphics. Thank you for everything. Thank you for doing so much talking tonight and presenting everything for us in such detail. You're a master of it. Great job, sir. Great job. So we'll be back next Monday and update the brackets. It should be a shorter show next week because we'll just be advancing the brackets a bit. So,
but it'll be a little bit less.
Yeah.
Well, there's certainly less predictions to go through.
Yeah, we had to introduce the whole field too and talk about who made it, who didn't make it, and things like that. So, but on that note, Woopah, any last thing before I make some announcements?
No, that's all.
All right.
Well, I guess here I'll shout out myself real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, next thing I'll be doing is being on this channel on Thursday, talking about the XFL for pro-ish football.
Yep.
I was at the game this week, so.
All right, you have to tell us about that experience. So.
Yeah, and so that'll be fun. That'll be. I think that's the only thing I have coming up right now. I don't have any other big plans for videos because I'm swamped with fantasy football things. I know you're thinking fantasy football in March. And, I'm a little bit obsessed. I can't help it.
I don't blame you. I'd be obsessed too.
But yeah, so that's all I got. Subscribe to Woopah Troopah on YouTube.
Absolutely. Go over and give him some
support. Follow me on Twitter if you want to see funny memes.
Exactly. Woopah's a great guy. Y'all go bug him and follow him on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. So, and thank you, Woopah, for everything again tonight. With that, I'm going to make some channel announcements. Tomorrow night is something completely new, a book chat with Dadman, where I read a collection of short stories from a book titled Science Fiction Tales by the author R.M. Briggs. Don't want to miss it tomorrow night. Look, there's a picture of her, a cover for the book. Tomorrow night at a different special time at 10 p.m. Eastern, 8 Mountain or 9 Central. You're not going to miss it, both on YouTube and Twitch. So join us for that tomorrow night for definitely a nice look at something different. Also, as Woopah said, Thursday night, we got the football XFL special night, 7 p.m. We're going to talk about some XFL football stuff. And then at the end of the month on the 29th, we do have something else on the 22nd, but I'm holding off announcing that right now. But on the 29th, it's another detour to Dadman's where the missus and I go over our trip to Fort Pickens down in Pensacola Bay. A lot of neat facts and not a lot of new stuff with that fort that you might never know. And hey, there's a wall there. That could be a story with the fort. So, but thank you again, Woopah, for being here. Thank you, everybody. So I appreciate it being here. All those are coming up. Remember, live streams videos are on YouTube and Twitch. Dadman Walking 55. Keep up with me for the latest on Twitter at Dadman Walking 55. Thank you for your all support tonight. Thanks for being here. Thank you, everyone, for chatting, for helping share the time with us and stuff like that. And just, thank you for being here, part of our family. And, we're 156 subs now. Let's get it to 200. Let's just keep growing, get the word out. And just thank you again for everybody here. And that's all I can say. Can't say it enough. At the end of the day, as long as you're smiling, happy, we can have some fun together. Appreciate it. And thank you to people like the missus for keeping me going and straight. And thanks to people like Woopah helping me collaborate on these things. Thank you again, Woopah. And everybody have a good night. Bye.
See ya.